What's up, everybody? Good morning and happy Wednesday, March 13th. DK Show up on the air on your radio dials of 105.1 FM and 790 AM. Also available online, sportstalk1051.com. Stream it up on your smart devices, smart speakers. Got the video stream also up and rolling, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Appreciate you making us part of your start on this early Wednesday morning. What do we got on the game plan for us here this morning? NFL free agency. Couple of notes from yesterday when it comes to your green and gold, your Packers. Packers reportedly agreeing to a new deal to bring back kick returner, defensive back Keyshawn Nixon, getting a little bit of a raise over their 3-year deal for Keyshawn Nixon for $18 million. So if we just kind of base it off of the average annual salary, about a $2 million raise. Got last year he was playing under a 1-year deal worth $4 million. But Packers getting that one done. That was the big one from yesterday. Also, Corey Ballentine coming back for the Pack too. So that defensive back room looking the same so far from how they finished up the season last year. So we'll see if the Pack have any more moves in store. Apparently, Josie Jewell, the linebacker, who is no longer available out there. He went to Carolina, was it? Carolina? Yes, Carolina, signing a 3-year deal there. But according to reports, the Packers were also interested in the former Iowa Hawkeye, too. So, but today is also the day, this afternoon, those deals will finally become officially official. So, get set for a lot of teams to announce their signings. So like Green Bay today with Jacobs and Xavier McKinney and such. So, but we'll kind of keep you posted and updated on some other moves out there. But I would think too with the Josie Jewell, if we believe that rumor, we believe that reports that the Packers were interested in him. Kind of have to wonder if they are really maybe focusing on the linebacker market right now, whether that's for a strong side linebacker, maybe they're looking for a different middle linebacker over Isaiah McDuffie. But I think it's well known that they need some depth. They need some depth over there at that linebacker position. So Patrick Queen's going over to the Steelers, signing a big deal over there too. Again, I feel like this AFC North, man, this AFC North division is going to be a lot of fun to watch next year. It's going to be a lot of fun, I think. So. But we'll talk some football coming up in just a little bit. Plenty of football chats coming at you. We've got some hoops chat. Bucks falling to the Kings last night, 129-94. Kings just controlled it from the start to finish. Bucks going 1-3 on this West Coast trip. Obviously, not the greatest of records there. But Bucks will return home for a game against Philadelphia on Thursday. And then they got Phoenix coming up on Sunday. But last night's game, you had Giannis with 30 points. 30 points for the Greek Freak leading the way. 13 rebounds, another double-double for him. But that was pretty much it. Dame, just 10 points, 2 of 12 from the field. The Bucks shot a miserable, absolutely miserable 17.9% from three. They were just 7 of 39. Yikes. Crowder didn't even attempt a shot in his 16 minutes of play last night. So, yeah, not good. Hopefully the Bucks can rebound, no pun intended, when getting back home and picking up a couple of wins. Getting some mojo with this Philly and Phoenix game coming up here before they hit the road for a quick game against the Celtics of Boston. Quick standings update. Bucks are still in second place, but that gap between first and second just continues to grow. Boston, 9.5 games ahead of the Bucks. Cleveland just a half game back from the Bucks for that second seed in the Eastern Conference. Minnesota picked up a win last night. They're just a half game back from OKC and Denver. OKC and Denver Same exact records, 45-20. But OKC holding on to that top spot right now. Minnesota picking up a win against the Clippers last night, 118-100. Staying with hoops, we've got the Big Ten Conference Tournament set to begin today. We know the Badgers will not be in action. They got to wait to see who's going to win between Rutgers and Maryland before they find out who they're going to be playing. Marquette is also in action tomorrow in the Big East tournament. They will play the winner between Villanova and DePaul. One team we know will not be in a tournament, most likely will not be in a tournament unless it's a huge surprise. But UW Milwaukee losing in the Horizon League championship game last night to the top-seeded Oakland Golden Grizzlies, 83-76. Milwaukee with, was it about 4 minutes, 6 minutes left in the game? 6 minutes left in the game, was holding on to a lead, 4-point lead, but not able to close it out there. So nice run, made it interesting there, but highly doubtful they did enough to make the tournament. One team that did win yesterday and clinch a spot in the tournament is UW Green Bay women's basketball team. Taking down the top-seeded Cleveland State 64-40. So Green Bay was a 2 seed, but UW Green Bay back in the NCAA tournament for women's basketball. 27-6 overall on the season. So we'll talk some college hoops. We'll make some picks with the Big Ten Conference tournament coming up here. We'll make some picks. If you want to play along with us and make your picks on who you think is going to win the Big Ten Conference tournament, all right, let us know. How far do you think the Badgers are going to go in this thing right now? If you're looking at bracketology, maybe kind of getting an idea. Majority have them sitting at a 6 seed right now, which was it Lenardi's bracket I was looking at yesterday or somebody's bracketology I was looking at yesterday? Princeton in their first game, in which I'm sorry, but I'd be nervous about that one in a 6-11 going up against Princeton. And if they were to get by that one, they would probably have to face Duke in the round of 32. So, my opinion, not really the greatest matchups there for the Badgers if it happened to play out that way. Stephen Krall, though, he said he vowed to be more aggressive in postseason play, to which I think a lot of Badgers fans are probably saying, yeah, okay, let's see it here first. Let's see it. So we got that. We're going to talk some baseball. The Brewers have already declared an opening day starter for second base. Pat Murphy yesterday, they had a night game last night, but beforehand, announcing Bryce Terang will be the opening day starter at second base. Already coming out. We got opening day here coming up 2 weeks from tomorrow. Getting my days mixed up. Yeah, 2 weeks from tomorrow. But Bryce Terang already getting the nod there. Pat Murphy saying, quote, I think this kid's gonna make a quantum leap. I think he'll establish himself as an everyday player. I'm really confident. So, Bryce Terang getting a big endorsement from his manager already, just 2 weeks away from opening day. Not just saying he's going to take a leap, a quantum leap. His swing decisions will be better, his contact will be better, and his damage will come. So that's it. Again, that's Pat Murphy talking about Bryce Terang. So we know Bryce Terang. We saw it last year with his defensive play. Heck, I thought he should have gotten maybe a little bit more attention for Gold Glove consideration at second base. But his offense last year was a lot left to be desired. And that's the big thing that I think we want to see get improved. We know his speed. We know he's going to be a threat when he's on the bases to get some stolen bases. But last year, he just batted .218 with a .585 OPS over 448 plate appearances. Yeah, Pat Murphy saying it's my opinion that Terang is going to respond in a real favorable way. So hopefully Terrain can back up his skipper's proclamation. Shout out to the media that was there. They tried to get Pat Murphy to say who was going to be the third base opening day starter. Murphy wasn't ready to divulge who the opening day starter at the hot corner would be. But again, he mentioned Sal Frelick. He talked about Sal Frelick again. And you kind of wonder, is it between Ortiz? Is it between Sal Frelick? Are they going to start off Ortiz down in the minors? I don't know. I don't know. Ortiz is a guy that could play across the infield, so maybe they view him as that guy coming off the bench and such. Playing in different spots, second, short, third. Guy's got a boatload of talent, and they like his potential, and I still think he's going to be probably the starting shortstop for next year for the Crew, but we'll know sooner rather than later at this point in time. But it sure seems like maybe Sal Frelick is the leader in the clubhouse for being your opening day third base starter over at the hot corner. So we'll talk some baseball. We got that. It is a Wednesday, so we'll do a little classes in session. It is related to baseball. We'll hit that up. We got another Business of Sports edition coming up at about 8:05, brought to you by Security Financial Bank. So let's get things rolling here this morning. Let's talk a little football, get you updated on the latest in terms of free agency and such. But Packers locking up Keyshawn Nixon, a couple other depth pieces over there for this team too. We'll recap it all there and maybe get to some rumors and rumblings and where else should they be kind of focusing their attention on the free agent market. So we'll do that. First up, we got a break. Our first break. Then we got the leadoff. Start to hit me up with some text on that Shoe Doctors bullpen lines, 715-830-1912. We'll be back in just a few minutes. I'm a creature of habit. One of the very first things I do every morning is brew some coffee, not just some ordinary coffee, though. Gotta be Cabin Coffee in Altoona. See, Cabin Coffee in Altoona also locally roasts and packages coffees fresh and daily. I'm personally a big fan of their giddy up flavor. Or if I'm in a hurry, I just pop on over to Cabin Coffee in the River Prairie District and grab myself a cup of Joe. They got a wide range of options to choose from that is hard to just pick one sometimes. When it comes to coffee, I need quality, not just some brown flavored water. And you can get that at Cabin Coffee in Altoona. All right, let's begin this morning on the leadoff. Kind of recapping where everything, day two, can we call it day two of the legal negotiating period or whatever? Deals will become officially official this afternoon when teams announce them and such. But yesterday, just across the NFL, we got Danielle Hunter leaving the Vikings. He's going over to the Houston Texans. They kind of flip-flopped. Vikings signed pass rusher from Houston, and now Houston signed a pass rusher from Minnesota and such. So got a nice chunk of change, 2 years, almost $50 million for Danielle Hunter. He's out of the NFC North division. Also, probably like the one matchup that people were waiting to see, wanting to see happen. Derrick Henry going to the Baltimore Ravens. I think everybody's kind of curious to see how that's going to work out. Like curious in a good way, maybe. You know, I know Derrick Henry's getting up there in age and such, but to see him in a backfield with Lamar Jackson, you got the power back of Derrick Henry, and then of course Lamar Jackson with his scrambling ability. So, but a couple of those moves, Packers wise, you had Keyshawn Nixon signing a 3-year deal worth $18 million per average. That's $6 million. We can do that basic math there. Again, we don't know the full details of everything, but nonetheless, he is back. Which I know there were some people kind of talking about, wow, that's a lot of money for Keyshawn Nixon and such. What I and last year, for comparison's sakes, 1 year, $4 million deal he came back on. But I think because there has been some talk, I don't know if they'll get to it this year, but there has been some talk again about adjusting the kickoff rules. Apparently, the NFL did not like what happened in the Super Bowl where we didn't have a single return, and they want to adjust it now to increase returns in the kicking game. And if that's the case, maybe that makes the kick returner position a little bit more valuable. So I think if it gets to that point, which I think eventually it will, having a guy like Keyshawn Nixon is going to be important, because how many times have we had like gone through years and years and years upon years where we just really didn't have a serviceable returner, punt returner, kick returner, whatever. I mean, Randall Cobb might have been the last one and such, but in his prime when he first started his career. But I think that factors into it. I know his defensive play this year, it was up and down from the slot corner position. Some games he looked really good. Some games it just kind of was subpar, not great, very, very inconsistent. Whether Jeff Hafley and this new staff can help that out, we'll see. But you look at this depth now of the corners they have. Jair at the top. You got Eric Stokes that, knock on wood, hopefully is healthy. Carrington Valentine, who logged a lot of snaps last year as a rookie. Now you're bringing back Keyshawn Nixon. You're bringing back Corey Ballentine, who logged you a ton of snaps last year too, starting snaps. So you got 5. You're 5 deep right now just with those guys. I'll be curious to see, and I feel like right now Green Bay is not going to target a corner really high in free agency. It's not to say they won't sign somebody, but in terms of maybe one of the best ones out there, right now I don't think they would, and I could be completely wrong. Like I don't think they would target a Kendall Fuller who's out there. Wouldn't be surprised if they grab a couple in the draft, but I kind of wonder now, how high of a priority is Goody going to have it in that draft? And again, I think they're in a position, or they're getting really close to being in that position, maybe a couple spots. They need a little bit more depth here. But they're really getting into a position where maybe they can just draft best available and fill in some holes, fill in some depth that way. But I look at that group of corners, and while I do believe that they could get a little bit more talented in terms of the depth there, I just wonder, would they use a first round pick on a corner? I don't know. Would they use a third round pick on a corner? I think now we're maybe talking a little bit. Maybe a early day 3, like round 4, round 5, but I don't know. Like, I was thinking about this yesterday with Keyshawn. I mean, you're giving him a nice contract, and that's not straight up for being a kick returner. It can't be just straight up for being a kick returner. You got to have him in your plans on the defensive side, and if that's going to be slot corner, well, then you got Jair on the other. Then you got a mixture of Stokes and Carrington. So I'm curious to see how the Packers, how Goody and the coaching staff view this depth right now, and do they personally believe they need to invest a high pick, let's say a first round pick or a second round pick in corner? I kind of wonder that right now. I really do. But with that being said, I still want them to get a little bit more depth at that corner spot, just to protect themselves too, because here's the thing. We don't know how healthy Eric Stokes is going to be. Jair's been banged up the last couple of years. That depth got tested last year big time with Carrington and Corey getting the starts. Keyshawn's still in the slot. It's never a bad problem, especially with defenses playing 70 to 75% in that nickel, especially for defenses playing with 3 corners, to have 6 deep corners, at least 5 deep. Nice round number of a 6, though. It's where I'm kind of at. And maybe that'll come from a draft pick. But there was a report yesterday, a rumor that after Josie Jewell signed up with Carolina on a 3-year deal worth over $20-some million in total value, that the Packers were interested in him. Now, I don't know if they were interested in some similar numbers, if they had a similar mindset there, but that, to me, if that is the case, if that is the case, that the Packers were interested in him, obviously tells us they are looking at linebackers for depth, for the strong side. Maybe a linebacker they feel is better suited to play middle linebacker, an upgrade at the middle linebacker over Isaiah McDuffie. We know they need depth. They need depth over there. But it tells me, if that is true, that report that they were interested in him, they're looking. They're looking. One guy out there that I know a lot of Packers fans would like to see because of the connection with Anthony Campanelli, Jerome Baker. Just saw Schefter a minute or two tweet this out, that he's visiting the Titans tomorrow. So, I mean, if the Packers wanted to bring him in and pair him up with his former position coach from the Dolphins, they better get on it. They better get on that train. Maybe they've had talks already. Who knows? But I think when you look at available guys out there, and let's kind of take a look at some of the linebackers that are potentially still out there. I still feel like Green Bay, when it comes to a linebacker, whether it's going to be, an upgrade at middle linebacker or looking at that strong side linebacker, if it's going to be one of those guys, I feel like it's almost going to be a 1-year deal for a strong side, just bringing in a veteran and then trying to address it in a draft. And the thing is, you go on like social media and such, and you look at, and it's not to say this is true for everybody, but you look at kind of the history of the draft and linebackers over the years. a lot of those linebackers, like the top linebackers, kind of come later on in the draft, the mid rounds of the draft. Again, that's not to say every linebacker is like that. But if you go on social media, you go on Twitter and the X, and you're kind of seeing this narrative out there, and people backing it up with stats and numbers and any analytic information you want. It's out there. But you can kind of see it in a lot of these linebackers, when you think of the top linebackers in the game and you look at where they were drafted position-wise, you're like, "Ah, kinda day 2, day 3 picks." So, with the guys that are available currently from this linebacker position, if we're taking a look at it right now, let me narrow this down here to just linebackers. Uh, Levante David's backed with Tampa, so on a 1-year deal. Yeah, 1-year deal up to $10 million. Whew. Okay. Devin White is still out there. Bobby Wagner's still out there. You've got Anthony Jennings, who looks like he's just re-upping with New England. So I mean, there's not a lot of options out there if they were looking at a veteran to bring in, which I still think they're going to, but I feel like it's going to be a really short-term deal, 1-year deal, and then they're going to bring somebody in with a draft. I still feel like there is a good group of safeties that Green Bay could bring in and pair up with Xavier McKinney. I don't know if Green Bay's willing to double dip and get another safety. I don't know why they wouldn't be open to that. But you look at this group of safeties who are still out there, and I think there's really some intriguing options. Gardner Johnson just signed up with the Eagles. Okay, that one's off the board. And if we kind of use NFL.com's top 101 free agents, they actually had Gardner Johnson as the number one and Xavier McKinney at number 2. But I've seen it other ways too. It's not to say this is the holy grail or the word of rankings. Like this is the cream of the crop one here. But Gardner Johnson signing up, going back to the Eagles after spending a hot minute with the Lions this past year. But you look at the other safeties. Cameron Curl is still out there, 25. Julian Blackmon, 26. You want another veteran, Justin Simmons. Jordan Fuller, 26. I would be ecstatic if they brought in a guy like Jordan Fuller. Ecstatic. Jordan Whitehead, 27, still out there. You got, if you want some more veteran type guys, Quandre Diggs is 31. He's still out there. Micah Hyde, 33, getting up there in age, still out there though. But you look at these safeties, and I'm like, there's still dudes out there. Like, and the longer they're out there, I kind of wonder where's that price tag. Like, I'm looking at some of these guys like a Geno Stone, 25. He went to the Bengals. He signed a 2-year deal, $15 million. That includes just $6 million in signing bonus. Jeremy Chin signed a 1-year, $4.105 million deal with Washington. I'm looking at these numbers, and it's not to say that, Julian Blackmon, Justin Simmons, Jordan Fuller, Cameron Curl, those guys would get something similar, but these guys are still out there, and I would be A-okay if we found out today, tomorrow, whenever it is, that Green Bay brought in another safety to pair with Xavier McKinney. I would be pumped because you've got those two guys now. You can look at, you could still look at the draft and bringing one in, because safety is such a weird position when it comes to draft. I mean, all of you who have been doing the mock draft simulators online probably know what I'm talking about. You got Cooper from Iowa, who's probably the number 1 safety, and a lot of Packers fans will love to see that guy come in. And he's a guy that He could play safety, he could play a little corner, he can mix and match him, move him around and such. Then after that, it's kind of like second round safeties, third round safeties. So even if Green Bay brings in another veteran, they go out there and get somebody on day 2, double dip it that way. Okay. But if they wanted to maybe fill another hole and maybe really focus elsewhere on the draft. If there's a guy they're just maybe they're not sold on the safety group. I don't know. But if they wanted to double dip with safeties, they've got a heck of an opportunity, I think. And I would be okay with it. Heck, if they signed Jordan Fuller to a 3-4 year deal and pairing him up with Xavier McKinney for the next few years, I'm okay with that. I'd be perfectly fine with that. Then you're really when you approach the draft next month, you're really kind of like you've got some flexibility there. It changes a lot. Maybe you really focus on an offensive lineman then. Or maybe you're finding a running back to pair up with Jacobs. Maybe you want to do something similar to what the Lions did last year with Gibbs and Singletary. Kind of having, the power and the scat and the quickness, that combo there. I think that's what we were all kind of hoping for when the Packers signed Jacobs and thinking, hey, all right, him and Aaron Jones, let's go, baby. So if we find out, and I don't know if we will, but if there was a wish list for me, if there was something out there that I would be like, I might have to have a victory scotch or a man cave light in celebration of, is if we find out they signed another one of these safeties. Because it's like, oh, here we go. You've just completely revamped the back end of that defense, that safety group. Because we know Owens isn't coming back. He's going to Chicago. He's over in Chicago now, signing a 2-year deal. But you get one of these other younger guys and lock them up for a couple years, few years, whatever it may be, pairing them up with Xavier McKinney. And I think that has a trickle down effect too, because of Xavier's ability to cover and some of these other safeties. It might have another effect too on your cornerback depth, on whether you decide to address corner very early in the draft or not. So go. If it were me, if I had a direct line to Goody, if I could call him up right now, I'd be like, get us another safety, and then go find that veteran linebacker. Maybe it's a Jerome Baker. Maybe it's somebody else out there. But go find us another veteran linebacker, 1-year deal or so, and let's roll. Let's roll. Then we can really kind of maybe focus on the draft and kind of find those offensive linemen. Find another running back. Find another linebacker. If they go out there and they grab themselves another safety, this is a huge offseason win. And I get it. Offseason wins don't translate to on the field wins. How many times have we seen that? I don't want to get, too confident, too arrogant or anything like that, but you want to really, really overhaul your defense and completely change it and put your new coordinator in a position to succeed and really try to give him the tools that he values for his defense. You go out there and you get another one of these safeties and let's say, let's ride, to quote Russell Wilson. It's kind of giving me flashbacks of Super Bowl 31 when, they had Leroy, but then you bring in a Eugene. Your wish list. What do you got? Hit me up with a quick text, 715-830-1912. Let's take a quick break. Maybe. Come on. There we go. Quick break. We'll be back in just a few minutes to finish up the first hour. All right, so we got a couple of messages to get to here. We've got Big Worm first up saying, I think a guy like Bobby Wagner is a must for the Packers. Yes, I know he's 33 years old, but no signs of him slowing down. What do you think? John also saying, my wish list is for the Packers to sign safety Cam Curl and get Bobby Wagner on a 1 or 2 year deal for veteran leadership. So we got a couple people throwing out there for Bobby Wagner. I feel like Bobby Wagner is almost underrated in some aspects, and I feel like the term underrated gets used way too much in sports. But I also feel like Bobby Wagner maybe doesn't get enough credit at times because while he's played 12 years, the guy has been just insanely consistent in his play. And he's been pretty darn healthy for the most part. Every single year that this man has played since 2012, he's racked up over 100 tackles every year. And last year, the most in his career, 183. He's coming off of a 183 season, 183 tackle season. And he has played double-digit games every single year. The fewest amount of games he has played was 11 back in 2014. Played in 17 last year. Played in 17 the year prior. 16, 16, 16, 15 in 2018. We want to talk about accountability. And I know as you get older and the position you play is you're probably playing a little bit with fire. And if you're going to be counting on him to play every game, it might be a little nerve-wracking. I'd be good with it. The only thing I would kind of wonder when it comes to Bobby Wagner is if you bring him in, does he play middle linebacker, which I think you'd have to. I think you'd have to. Could he play strong side? The thing is how does that all match up? Because and the other part in this too, Bobby Wagner's played exclusively in like a 3-4 defense throughout his entire career. Played, Seattle over there. He's, 1 year with the Rams. He's played in that. And what would that kind of do with the depth there? I was reading the other day, Isaiah McDuffie, who spent a year with Jeff Hafley in at Boston College when Jeff Hafley was the head coach. Isaiah McDuffie was senior. Jeff Hafley coming on as the first-time head coach. And McDuffie, there was a couple quotes, and I just brought it back up here again just to jog my memory here. But when Hafley was named Boston's head coach in 2020, that helped Isaiah McDuffie and boosted up his numbers. That year, over 100 tackles, 107, 3 sacks, 6.5 tackles for loss. And McDuffie said a big reason was, quote, the years previous, I didn't really play in the box that much. I was kind of on the line of scrimmage. That year, talking about the year he was with Hafley, I got a chance to really be an off the ball, inside the box, inside linebacker. It was my first time really doing it. So it was kind of a learning curve, but at the same time, I felt like they coached me up to a point where I got really comfortable after camp and everything. So things were just kind of rolling, and I got a lot of opportunities to make plays. So that would be like if Wagner comes in, if Bobby Wagner comes in, that would either probably mean McDuffie goes to the bench, or could they transition him to a strong side linebacker? Does he have the size to play over there? That would have to be questions they would have to address or figure out. McDuffie's also entering his final year. Do they want to see what they've got in that guy? But hey, that's why Hafley and those guys over there get paid to make those decisions and make those calls over there too. But there's no doubt about it. When you look at Bobby Wagner, that dude is just Mr. Consistent. And at times I almost feel like it gets taken for granted. I mean, when he went to the Rams, people were like, "Oh yeah, he's probably at the end of his career." He's coming off of a 170 tackle season, and people were like, "Ah, he's probably getting towards the end there." Rams is trying to get a little bit out of him yet. Finished with 140 tackles and 6 sacks with the Rams in 2022. The most amount of sacks he's ever had in his career in a season. Goes back to Seattle, and even so, people are like, oh, okay, nice little homecoming. Dude racks up 183, and the guy plays these games like every game, almost every single game. I almost feel like he gets taken for granted. Just kind of like, oh yeah, he just Mr. Consistent. Another All-Pro this year. He has made an All-Pro team. Get this, Bobby Wagner has made an All-Pro team every single year besides one. 2013. And in that shortened season, 2014, where he played 11 games, he was still an All-Pro, and that was when he got an MVP vote. Remember that? I think it was Tony Dungy who gave him an MVP vote. I mean, I wouldn't be upset. I don't know how it would work, but I wouldn't be upset. It's not my job to figure out how it would work. But, yeah. Because I feel like Bobby Wagner's probably at that point where maybe he wants to win a couple more Super Bowls or win another Super Bowl and such. And I feel like teams are viewing his age and just kind of expecting him to fall off and maybe hit a wall at some point. The guy hasn't, like Big Worm threw out there, he hasn't really shown that so far. The only thing is now Bobby Wagner would instantly be the oldest dude on this roster for the Packers because the two oldest guys are Preston Smith and Kenny Clark at the age of 28 right now. So, yeah. Couple of other reviews saying, agree with you on the safety. Go get another safety. Still a lot of young talent out there, and really focus on improving the depth in the draft. Another texter saying, I would love another safety in free agency. That way we can become more flexible when it comes to the draft. Get another safety, says Aaron. Get another safety so we can really focus on getting an offensive lineman early on in the draft. Yeah, you haven't really heard Green Bay mentioned out there about targeting offensive linemen. Remember, Yash is out there. He's a free agent, but I think they're set to give Walker a shot to win the everyday starting left tackle spot. Sean Ryan got some snaps last year, but I also feel like center. You got Josh Myers, a guy who's always kind of been, maybe job on the line. Zach Tom was taking snaps from him last year in training camp. Could they look at an interior lineman that could also play center? I know of one here in Wisconsin, Tanner Bortolini, that might be a good option later on in the draft. Guy knocked it out of the park at his combine. Tested through the roof. I mean, if that's a guy there that's early day 3, I'd be okay with that. Myers is going to be a free agent after next year. Heck yeah. Bring in a guy like Tanner. Absolutely. I'd be 100% okay with that. All right, we're going to talk some baseball coming up in the next hour. We'll talk some hoops as well with the Big Ten Conference Tournament starting today. First up, what's up, Morgs?
How you doing, Casper? Do I see a new Packers table in here?
I'm just unloading stuff from my house.
Oh, wait. So now you're is this like overflow from the man cave at home?
Kind of.
Is becoming studio
trying to clean up. That was in the back room attic sort of thing, and then trying to get rid of it. And I'm like, I'll just throw it in here.
It looks like you're setting up for a thrift sale or something in here.
Kind of.
And now are you building like an alternate man cave here at work, or how's that going to work?
I don't want it to be too clustered.
Right.
Surprised you didn't say anything about the beer drinking trophies.
I actually just took a glance over there. I see everything represented. My favorite, high on the top, Coors Light. That's my drink of choice. Little Blue Ribbon Pabst next there, and it goes down. We got some Miller Lite, Bud Light, but again, my Coors making an appearance. So tell me where you won that.
That would be, as the plaque says, the Rodeo Days softball tournament, first place beer drink in 2008.
Yeehaw, 2008. That's about the last time I could do a turnaround on a beer drinking trophy.
I should have got you. I should have brought in the picture. So that tournament was in Medford.
Okay.
It's at Cindy's. It's right across the road from the rodeo grounds.
Yep.
But that tournament too was also when my buddy Frank was goofing around in warm-ups and smoked me in the eye with a softball.
Okay. You're going to need your buddy
knocked
Frank.
Out.
You're going to need your buddy Frank. Funny you should say that. So nice out.
Chipped a tooth on the opposite side.
throwing ball
Yeah.
with my daughter last night, and actually all week because it's been nice out, and she's
Mhm.
softball lunatic. So we were throwing ball together. Right in the schnoz last night,
Mhm.
right to the face, hit my glasses, flew off my face. Daughter, love of my life, only child, comes running up to me and says, Mom, you want me to show you how to catch a pop fly?
Nice.
You got to put, and so here I am holding my nose. She takes my hand in my glove. Mom, you put your hand in front, hold your wrist. I'm like, are you seriously instructing me how to catch one of these instead? How about stop throwing it at my head?
Well, apparently you needed a little
I
tip.
need a little Frank in my
Yeah.
life. So what now? Frank chipped your tooth, but you
No,
guys won
it
the
was
beer
warm up.
drinking
It was
trophy.
warm-ups. So, you're in your lines and throwing up, and he was goofing around with another guy. They were throwing it as hard as they could.
Like my daughter, apparently.
And I was walking behind somebody to get something, and the ball got overthrown, knocked me, busted my glasses, sunglasses.
This is all
had
before you had to
stitches.
play.
Yeah, right in the eye.
Oh.
Had stitches, chipped the opposite side of my tooth, knocked me out. I just I still played, and we still won the beer
I
drinking
was going to
trophy.
say, that sounds
But
like
the picture of me, Frank, and our buddy Greg, I'm wearing these big sunglasses to cover my black eye.
most people would need stitches after they won a beer trophy.
Yeah.
I think
I'm
that's
talking
actually.
stitches from the ball.
So you didn't even play that game?
Oh, I played.
Oh,
Yeah, I played.
stitches and then play.
Yeah.
It was
Ball
nothing,
stitches ingrained in my face.
nothing's going to take you down.
Yeah, I wanted that beer drinking
That,
trophy
I tell you,
so
that
bad.
trophy is almost as tall as you. That is a pretty,
Yeah.
pretty nice beer
It's
trophy.
cheaply made, but I really wanted that thing. So.
Hey, bragging rights. It's
Yeah.
integrity. It sticks with you. What's
Uh,
Frank doing these days?
Oh, you down in Milwaukee?
Oh,
Yeah, so,
all right.
all right.
Drinking the beast, probably.
Yeah.
Another trophy.
Second hour kicking off on this Wednesday morning of March 13th. Big thanks for tuning in wherever, however you may be tuning in from. Reminder to get on the bus with us to head to opening day in Milwaukee as Milwaukee takes on Minnesota for their home opener April 2nd. April 2nd, just head to sportstalk1051.com, wiscotrips.com to reserve your seats. Tickets are going really fast right now. But with your ticket, it includes a game ticket to the Johnsonville Party Deck that includes food and beverages, couple brewskis if you're over the age of 21, round trip motor coach transportation, tailgate party from Premier Catering as well. I got a couple pickup stops, Sam's Club in Eau Claire, and then at Oakdale, the Road Ranger in Oakdale. Again, just head to sportstalk1051.com or wiscotrips.com to reserve your seat on the bus and head to Milwaukee's opening day on April 2nd. We will be having a opening day party on March 28th over there with our friends at Hy-Vee. So I know that's spring break week for the Eau Claire School District. So if you've got some time off or you got some of the kiddos and want to hang out and all that fun stuff with us at Hy-Vee, we'll be over there starting at 11:30 and such. So we'll see you over there too. We'll talk some more baseball coming up in just a little bit. Brewers already announcing their opening day starter for second base. That would be Bryce Terang. Pat Murphy already making that announcement yesterday. And, he's got some high expectations for Bryce Terang. So we'll go through some of the comments from the new skip, Pat Murphy, and his thoughts on Bryce Terang for this year. We've got some hoops. Big Ten Conference Tournament beginning today. Wisconsin will be in action tomorrow as they await the winner between Rutgers and Maryland. Also, Marquette will be in action tomorrow. They await the winner between Villanova and DePaul. UW Milwaukee's run in the Horizon League tournament ended last night in a championship game against Oakland. Oakland defeating them 83-76. So Milwaukee all likely will not be in the NCAA tournament. However, UW Green Bay women's team winning the Horizon League tournament yesterday. They will be back in the tournament. We got a little business of sports coming up at 8:05, brought to you by Security Financial Bank. We will get to that. Also, we'll throw in some NBA chat too. With the Bucks losing last night, Timberwolves did pick up a win. And of course, we'll get back to some more football talk as free agency kind of continues to roll along here. We begin this hour, though, with a little classes in session. Lucas, do you remember the name Bobby Thompson? The shot heard around the world. Walk-off home run off the Brooklyn Dodgers to win the 1951 National League pennant.
The Giants win the pennant. The Giants win the pennant. Yes.
So he's involved in this. It was this day for Thompson, though back on March 13th in 1954, he was actually playing for the Milwaukee Braves. He was a member of the Milwaukee Braves, and he ended up fracturing his ankle sliding into second base during a spring training game. That injury led to the debut of somebody named Hank Aaron. Hank Aaron next day made his spring training start for the Milwaukee Braves, playing in left field, hitting a home run, and that led to Hank Aaron getting a major league contract signed on the final day of spring training. And that kind of opened the door for one Mr. Hank Aaron, which obviously around here too, we know he's one of the best who ever played the game of baseball, but perhaps means a little bit more around here considering the history with him at Carson Park and the Eau Claire Bears and all that good stuff too. So,
wow.
But yeah, God, that today was kind of the old age or the old phrase of you can't lose your job because of an injury. Don't tell that to the players who've lost their jobs to injuries or players who ended up getting a break because of somebody getting hurt.
It has happened all the time. It will happen all the time.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it goes.
Yep. Were you around when Hank Aaron's statue got to be debuted? Did you go to Carson Park for that?
I did not. I was in high school at that point, so I don't think I had plenty of I was the summer, so I wasn't like literally in high school. I just remember it happening for whatever reason, didn't go to it. And again,
Mhm.
probably because I was a teenager, like, okay, cool. But at the same time, I knew the history of Hank Aaron even at that point. But I definitely remember when it happened was it August of 1994? I believe was when, like, gosh, so we would be coming up on the 30th anniversary of the statue unveiling this summer.
Mm.
But I definitely remember it happening that summer.
Yeah, I would have been 8. Yeah, I would have been 8. So a little too young for that.
Let's see,
For
did they have
myself.
the actual August 17th, 1994? So that was right after the strike started.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Wow.
Interesting. A little bit more too. I mean, everybody probably knows this, the Eau Claire history and such when it comes to Hank Aaron, but he was assigned to the Eau Claire Bears, which was the Braves Northern League Class C farm team, and the 1952 season proved to be a good one. He played in the infield, continued to develop as a ball player, made the Northern League's All-Star team. Here's an interesting note. He broke his habit of hitting cross-handed and adopted the standard hitting technique. By the end of the season, he had performed so well that the league made him the unanimous choice for Rookie of the Year. Although he appeared in just 87 games, scored 89 runs, 116 hits, 9 homers, 61 RBIs, 336 batting average.
Yeah.
And then 1953, he was promoted to the Jacksonville Braves, their Class A affiliate in the South Atlantic League. So, I would love to know more, like, if anybody was, I don't know if they'd still be around, but, like, like, stories like, did you spot Hank Aaron around Milwaukee, like, off days or something like that? Like, where did he hang out in Eau Claire? You know what I mean?
Yeah, because I mean, there was the whole Summer Up North,
Mm-hmm.
the movie, the book, all of that. And that might get into some of that. I know there's. Have you ever watched the documentary Summer Up North?
I have not.
Okay, yeah.
No.
It goes into a fair amount of detail. Maybe I don't seem to recall if it got into that particular detail, but there's a fair amount of slice of life
Mhm.
that you get coming out of that about how different society felt to him, like in a good way, coming up here. Like, wow. So it was. I mean, I'm way oversimplifying it, but it wasn't. It was like, oh, cool. So, like, I'm not potentially going to be killed just by walking around here because I'm surrounded by white folks. Because it was way different than the Deep South.
Mm-hmm.
Way different. I think there was a story about him going over to, like, the tower at Elk Mound,
Ooh.
for example, or there was something like that. He was just going to hang out over there. And there are more stories elsewhere about it, but I'd recommend checking Summer Up North.
Summer Up North. That's
by Jerry Poling.
Okay.
Long-time UW Stout person who was big-time baseball person.
Okay.
Very knowledgeable in the history of local baseball.
Okay.
Summer Up North. Go check it out.
And it's a movie documentary?
The documentary came out, let's see, A Summer Up North, Henry Aaron.
I'm writing this down. That's why
Jerry Poling. Okay. Yeah, for anyone who doesn't know, if you know, you know. If you don't, it's worth checking out. It came out a little ways back, but A Summer Up North by Jerry Poling, Poling.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's a good book. And then there was a documentary that accompanied it.
Yeah. I don't know why I think about stuff, but I would have been like, okay, where did he like go? Where did he hang out? What was, like, I don't, did he go down Water Street or, stuff like that? Like when he's like not playing baseball and such.
Did he go to the Pickle?
Oh yeah. Did Hank Aaron go to the Pickle? Oh my goodness.
No, it was the old school. It's the Nasty Habit.
Oh, but like what did he do? That sort of stuff. Or did anybody see him out and about?
Yeah.
Sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But, no, that would have been cool.
Yeah,
that would have been really cool.
Yeah, because it describes.
And at that point, nobody knew who he would have been like, right?
Right.
So,
like you don't know what's coming. You don't know that. Are we? I mean, again, doing the whole Mount Rushmore thing.
Because I think if I remember right, he did live, like, was it the YMCA or something like that? I think he lived there. So, but like, what do you do for fun?
Right. Because he's doing the assessment. Is he a top 5 Major League Baseball player of all time?
I think for a lot of people, yes.
Yeah.
Maybe not for I think it's a generational thing too. Maybe for the younger ones, probably not.
You can start getting into analytics too. That's changed some of how we assess, not necessarily him, but I mean across the board. But of anyone who's played in the majors, and then of course now we got to factor in. I mean, because we do need to factor in the Negro League players who there are a few that probably would have been in the top 5, but they never got a chance to play, like your Josh Gibsons. Think of those folks. But I still think he's top 5 overall talent. Yeah, I think so. Even if he was kind of a bit more of an accumulator, which usually is a knock, but he was accumulating a long time. He was good for a long time.
Well, for what it's worth, ESPN back in 2022 did their top 100 baseball players of all time, and Hank Aaron was number 3.
There you go.
Number 1 was Babe Ruth. Number 2, Willie Mays. Number 3, Hank Aaron. Ty Cobb 4. Ted Williams, number 5. Rounded out top 5.
Yeah.
So,
and I don't think there's anything in the last 2 years that would have changed my assessment in terms of who could have played their way into the top 5. Plenty of good players right now, but no one that would make me rethink a top 5.
At that point, the highest ranked current player was Mike Trout at 15. And I still don't think he would.
No.
After a couple of years.
I think Shohei Ohtani's making the strongest case to go up right now. We need to see more, obviously. That's it. So Hank Aaron, I think, would still be a top 5 assessment today.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And that's why I appreciate sports history a little bit more too, because I hope the younger generations don't forget about players like that. You know, like, dude was really good.
Yeah.
Even if you weren't around, you can know who was really good. You know, Babe Ruth's got the aura around him, right? Like, everybody almost knows Babe Ruth. Even if you don't know Babe Ruth, you just know the name of Babe Ruth and must be, oh, that's really good. And he was a really good player. I'm not downside it, but he's a little bit more got the popularity. That name has lived on throughout the years. So.
Hank Aaron's always going to be around. Babe Ruth's always going to be around.
Yep, absolutely.
I hope Shohei Ohtani's always going to be around. If we're going to use one current example, I hope so. I'd like to think that we're watching history. We already have seen history with him, but that we see like you need to tell your great grandchildren about this because it's integral to the game history, and I hope that continues.
The rest of the top 10, somebody asked what it was. Lou Gehrig was 6, Mickey Mantle was 7, Barry Bonds was 8, Walter Johnson 9, Stan Musial was number 10 over there. So, yeah, I don't really have a whole problem with a lot of those.
Solid list. Yeah, that is what that is, and I think that's good. So, and we had a top 5 guy in Eau Claire. That was pretty cool.
Yeah,
it was pretty cool.
Where's Honus Wagner on this list? I'm just kind of curious if he's in the top 25. Pedro was 11, by the way. Pedro Martinez.
That's holding up well.
Yeah, Wagner was 12. So Honus Wagner was 12. The Flying Dutchman. Like, that's the only thing too. Like, I feel like a lot of people only know Wagner because that's like the iconic card to have, the iconic baseball card to have.
The card for sure.
You know, I could picture it right now. You know. And that was honestly probably my first introduction to Honus Wagner too. Is like, oh, the card's worth a lot of money. You know,
right? But, check this old card out. Like, but also he played baseball too.
It's funny. The last line in this write-up, I just saw this. All that said, Wagner might be best known today for his rare baseball card that recently sold in 2022 for $6 million. This was 2022, so $6 million. Yikes!
It's a lot of money.
I'm
not going to be buying that anytime soon.
Ooh. And that's the thing too, like with baseball, compared to the NBA, even compared to the NFL, there's a lot of dudes you can pick to try to come up with your top 10 list. Would you agree? Like, there's a lot, like you go back way then. And I feel like if you asked 100 people, 100 people would have a different top 10. A lot of the same people, but probably in a different order.
Yeah.
Because it just goes back. We're talking about Honus Wagner, a guy who played like late 1800s, for crying out loud. Late 1800s, early 1900s.
It's a different game. It was the dead ball era.
Right.
That was a different. I don't think we all understand exactly how different baseball was in the dead ball era. Like, at first glance, of course, it's the same, but the way the game was fundamentally played was wildly different.
And you look at a lot of these. If we're using this list here, a lot of those dudes, early 1900s. Babe Ruth, Willie Mays was, mid 1900s. You had Hank Aaron, 50s, 70s. Ty Cobb, early 1900s. Ted Williams, same late 1930s, 1940s. Lou Gehrig, 1920s into the 40s. Some old time baseball ones.
I think to a certain degree that's because baseball was bigger back then.
Mhm.
Kind of like the reverse with the NFL now, because the NFL is bigger now. So we're like the best coaches of all time have all been in like the last 10 years. Like,
Mhm.
stop, people. That's not the case. But the NFL is bigger, so we pay more attention now. We paid more attention to baseball back then. So those names became bigger stars as a result. I mean, if baseball today is as big as it was in 1962, are we already putting Shohei Ohtani in the top 5? Maybe.
Yeah.
Um,
Heck, if you don't even go to the 30s or 40s or stuff like that, it was like baseball and college football.
basically, yeah.
Those
And,
two.
I mean, there's still college football athletes from that era that are still considered some of the absolute greats of all time. But you don't really hear that about the NFL from that era, because the NFL
Mhm.
was like, really? You're going to play in the...
That's why Don Hudson doesn't get a lot of credit.
Right, yeah. And Hudson's probably one of the best examples of a great player from that era,
Mhm.
which it falls off pretty fast after Don Hudson.
Mhm.
So I think that's part of it. Part of it's also, I think, less competition in terms of teams. So your team could do better for longer. The Yankees were way more of a dynasty than we've ever known in our lifetimes for pretty much anyone. I think anyone listening to the show, unless anyone was old enough to remember the 50s, 60s Yankees dynasties. Otherwise, they were a bigger deal back then. So Babe Ruth could win more frequently. Lou Gehrig could win more frequently. That's far from the biggest reason, but it is a factor, I think, in their greatness. They had more opportunities to be great on the highest level, in addition to during an entire, 154 game season.
Well, we always talk about the 1927 Yankees, right?
With
that lineup that they had. Ooh.
27, 29, throwing all those other years and everything. It was happening so much. Hey, it's that time of year again. I can start citing it on the Baseball Tonight podcast. Sarah Langs from MLB Network.
Yes.
She does her she does her stats.
Well, Lou Gehrig's disease too. She's
Interesting time. Yeah, with ALS, and she's still going, by the way.
Yep. She is. If you don't know who she is really good at her job.
Yes.
Very good at her job.
That, and I say this in the best way possible. She is a baseball geek.
Yep.
And knows everything statistically. And a lot of the times when she does her goes as three things. Of course, I'm blanking on the title, but every podcast that she's on goes through three numbers. And a lot of times it's like 4 players of all time have ever done this particular stat, or this player has done the and I can't tell you how many times the comparisons go back to like something around 1930 or 31. I don't know exactly why, and I'm sure there's an explanation for it, but many times it's a feat usually of hitting that hasn't happened since around that era, and many times involving a New York Yankee from that era. There was something really good about baseball, particular types of baseball, that, again, you could be good over and over again as a team. So if you were a really good player, Lou Gehrig, Babe Ruth, etc., you could shine maybe a little more, and that might be why we're still knowing those names a century later and talking about them in a contemporary context.
Yeah. How about this? I'm going to put this question out and get everybody's mind thinking here a little bit, and I want people to text me this. From 1990 to the current, give me your top 5 baseball players of all time. 1990 to now. So that's kind of in our wheelhouse, would you say? You and me a little bit more?
Yeah.
In our wheelhouse there?
Sure.
So 1990 on. Your top 5 in order. Number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Because if we use this list as our gauge or barometer, if you will, it's probably, Barry Bonds would be number 1, right? Barry Bonds would be number 1. And then it would be Pedro at number 2. If we use this list, because Pedro's at number 11
right
on this, sir. So then Griffey would be number 3 because he's at number 13. Then Greg Maddux would be number 4. I'm just giving you what their top 5 would be. And then Mike Trout would be number 5.
Okay.
So from 1990 on, would you agree with that order, or who would you put in there?
I got to think about it for a moment.
So, yeah, you think about it for a little bit. We'll hit it up a little bit, but hit me up with texts on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line, 715-830-1912, again, from 1990 on. So they could have started in the 80s. You know, they had to have been active in 1990 going onward too. So,
Right.
All right. Think about it for a little bit. Let's take a quick break. We'll be back with more after these few words. Spring cleaning, an annual tradition we all dread. When I think of spring cleaning, I think of dusting, washing the windows, mopping the floors, even dreading looking under Hudson's bed. This year, though, let's have a little fun with spring cleaning. Let's really leave our mark on it. Let's get some new floors from Carpet City Flooring Center in Eau Claire. Hey, the way I look at it, let's go big. Let's replace that carpet in your living room so you don't have to hide those spill stains with fake plants, or update that kitchen floor that is completely out of style. It's time, people. Just head on over to Carpet City Flooring Center in Eau Claire and check out all the different options of flooring they have there. Carpet City Flooring Center will work with you to set up the install of your new floors, and boom, spring cleaning is in the books. Do you really want to make your home feel clean this spring? Spring on in to Carpet City Flooring Center and look at getting a new floor for your home to make your home look even more amazing. A couple of messages on the video stream here. Nick says Ray's Place, exclamation point. Hank Aaron, exclamation point. Ask Dave. So I don't know if that means he hung out there or not. But
I'm guessing he did.
Okay.
That has to be.
I'm assuming. So, James, I was friends with Art Roach, who passed away about 10 years ago.
Yes, Art Roach, baseball legend around the area. I knew him well from him and Jerry. I got to know through the Eau Claire Baseball History Committee. So
Gotcha.
Anyway, continue.
He was a bat boy for the Eau Claire Bears. Art would talk to me about how he would talk to the bat boys about how to play baseball. Art said there were a couple players on the Bears who would treat Hank poorly. They were the same players that treated the bat boys poorly. Art said that experience developed a bond with them. Art said Hank was one of the most respectful people he ever picked up a bat for.
Mm-hmm.
So
sounds right. I'm sure I heard a story similar to that from Art at some point.
Mm-hmm. We've got a few texts here with your top fives. Let's just say the most popular number one is Ken Griffey Jr. Surveyor Sam saying Ken Griffey Jr., number 2, Barry Bonds, number 3, Shohei, number 4, Mariano Rivera, number 5, Frank Thomas. John going with Ken Griffey Jr., number 1, Greg Maddux, number 2, Cal Ripken Jr., number 3, Randy Johnson, number 4, Derek Jeter, number 5. So text me your top fives from 1990 on. I'll give us a few more minutes to think about it. So, because this one's tough. Hey, somebody did ask, are we counting the steroid guys? I'm going to say this. It's up to you. That's your own opinion. If you want to include the Barry Bonds is A-Rods, right?
Yeah.
That I'll leave that up to everybody else if they want to include them or not. So no rules here. Your top five. Your top five from 1990 on.
What's interesting is that a lot of the names that come up, I'm looking at the WAR list, which I figured that's probably your best like go-to measure. A lot of those guys don't appear all that often, if at all, on the best WAR in the league.
Who is? Do you have that
in
number?
a given year? I got the list like going back to going back to 1871. George Zetline was a National
I
League
remember
leader.
him. Yeah, George. Okay, yeah. Good old George. So.
1883, Old Hoss Radbourne.
I love those names back then.
1889, the American Association leader, Icebox Chamberlain.
Come on, can we please start naming our kids these names again? That's so cool.
Well, so here you go. If you have if Hudson has a kid, or not a kid, well, I'd suppose Hudson will have a kid at some point. If you have another kid, you have the opportunity to
Icebox. Now
give
people
him one of those names.
People will think it's because I'm a huge Little Giants fan. So
Three Finger Casper, something like that.
That's a little too much now. Come on, dude.
Yeah, well,
yikes.
But it's those kind of
yikes
names from like 1887.
Yeah. Oh man. All right.
Pipe Smoke Johnson. You're like, what does that mean?
Mountain Kennesaw
Mountain Landis. Yeah. I mean, well, there was exactly. So
I mean,
but yeah, a lot of those guys were not the names we just heard. Look at the WAR leaders; they're not there. Now that doesn't mean that it could be like a Russell Wilson sort of thing. Like, well, what year were they going to be number one? They were like number 2, like all the time, but there was always someone better. So I'm just looking at the WAR leaders, not like the top 10 in a given year. So it might not be entirely fair to like a Frank Thomas or someone like that.
Do you know your number one? Like, do you know like, oh, that's easily my number one?
I had to reassess a little bit after thinking of some of the others.
Okay.
I'm not going to say just yet because
don't say it. I don't. I was just curious if you knew your number one right away.
It wasn't obvious.
Okay.
Because
I've got my number one, but I went back and forth on it, but maybe it's a little bit of a personal one, but I'll wait. I'll wait.
Yeah.
We'll do it here in about, like, say 10 minutes or
Okay.
so. Before that, though, we are just a couple weeks away from Brewers spring training. Pat Murphy already declaring who is opening day starter for second basis. It's Bryce Terang. Bryce Terang. Pat Murphy with some quotes about Bryce Terang. Maybe putting a little pressure on him, maybe trying to give him a little confidence boost. But, quote, I think this kid's going to make a quantum leap. I think he'll establish himself as an everyday player. I'm really confident. We know Bryce Terang has great defense. He was a great defensive player last year. I thought should have gotten some more consideration for Gold Glove. Offensively, he's a great base stealer, but he's got to get on base consistently to really take advantage of that. But do you like the fact that Pat Murphy, a guy, is already declaring him his opening day second baseman, but using phrases like he's going to make a quantum leap? Or do you think that puts a little pressure on still a younger player who maybe we still have some questions about?
I guess it depends on if Terang feels like he can take the pressure.
Mm-hmm.
I would think Murphy's been around enough with this team, especially, to know the personalities of the players.
Right.
So I'm thinking he's had enough of a talk with Terang, and Terang's probably like, I've got this, I can do this. And Murphy is assessing that, oh yeah, you've got this, you can do this. So he can go out and say, you've got this, you can do this. And there's not going to be a level of pressure.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's okay. It would be my guess. Murphy's tenure with the team is going to give, for me anyway, it's going to give him a lot of leash, that he knows enough subtleties, nuances, all that with the organization, with a lot of the players, that the way he manages them, the literal small m, manages them, is going to be done, I think, probably in the proper way. Is it the most effective way to win? I don't know, but the most proper way, at least in the near term.
To me, the best managers, the best coaches know exactly how to motivate their individual players, because not everybody is the same way. One person, one player, one athlete may be motivated by the, intense yelling, whatever sort of thing. Some may have to be motivated a little bit differently or coached up a little bit differently. To me, the best managers, the best coaches know that, and they know how to get that individual player to really succeed. And I agree with you. Pat Murphy's been around for a while. Pat Murphy's been a longtime college coach. He's been with the younger guys, right? He's been a bench coach. He's been with these guys for how long? I think he knows what gets these guys going, what motivates these guys. On the surface, it may look like a big proclamation, but at the same time, maybe that helps a guy like a Bryce Terang say, hey, my manager's got a lot of confidence in me. Maybe I can stop pressing if he's pressing, or maybe I could stop overthinking it and just go out there and ball, because you know what? I am a talented player and I can go out there.
Mm-hmm.
It just remains to be seen whether he does it or not.
Yeah. And if he doesn't, I don't think that's on Murphy. I think that's because Terang would turn out to not be quite ready for a quantum leap. Maybe it's a smaller leap.
I think we're starting to see some of the differences from a Murphy to a Craig Counsell, which aren't that big of a surprise if people have been kind of following the Brewers over the years. Murphy is definitely more vocal, more open, more of a character, and I'm not to say Counsell never had his players' backs, but I would say Murphy is more vocal in terms of the media and being out there in terms of like how much he really like loves his players and has their backs, and really just displays more confidence in those guys, where I think we all know Craig Counsell was really close to the chest and didn't really say a whole lot in the media over the years. You got two different styles right now.
I was listening on, guess what? Two times in the same pod, the Baseball Tonight podcast. They've been doing their team by team previews, and they had the Cubs one the other day. They had Taylor McGregor, Cubs reporter, previewing, and I think it was she that noted, from what they've observed of Counsell, that Counsell, and Buster Olney was agreeing on this, like he doesn't have like an absolute take and be like, you know what?
Mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily know the answer to this. Like he doesn't have to have it for the reporters. If
Right.
we're not sure, we're not sure. So those of us who have followed the Brewers for many years are going to be a little surprised. I don't think in a bad way, but by Murphy's approach, I don't think Murphy. Yeah, from what I've gathered of Murphy, he's not like angry, boisterous either. He's just more of a. It's probably more, dare I say,
Charismatic.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
Mhm.
He's probably also going to get tossed a lot sooner than Council will in any
Yeah.
given game, but so be it. There are a lot of great managers that get tossed too, and a lot of bad managers get tossed. It doesn't really mean anything as long as he has the team playing hard for him and he successfully manages them. They're in good shape.
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of goes back to the whole. I don't want to get into this debate, but old school coaches, new school coaches, and I haven't had a chance to watch it, the Dynasty documentary with the Patriots,
Mm-hmm.
but I heard some quotes and some clips from it. Like there was one from Gronkowski that he'd pull into the parking lot and he would just sit in the car because he dreaded going in. Because again, they were coached really hard by an old school coach, Belichick, right?
Yeah.
And we kind of saw that those personalities change. We talked about it like when Brady and Gronk went to Tampa and they're doing videos, look like they're having fun. And you kind of wonder like, oh yeah, that's out of the grip of Belichick,
Right.
sort of thing. So
I guess could also explain why Belichick maybe didn't get a job this past round.
Could be too.
Maybe.
Maybe.
I'm
Yeah.
speculating, so I don't know.
Yep. All right. Let's take a quick break and then we're going to do our top 5, okay?
Yep.
We got our top 5. Last call. If you want to play along with us, thank you to all of you who have texted in your top 5 baseball players of all time from 1990 on. A couple of you have texted just one player. Give me a top 5. Got to be a top 5. Rank them from 1990 to now. Take that quick break. And we'll reveal our top 5s coming up. There's one guy that hasn't been mentioned yet that I'm a little surprised that hasn't. He's in my top 5, but that's the only tease I'll give you. We'll be back in just a couple minutes. The grills are coming out of hibernation. For some of us, though, they may have never left. Grilling season is upon us. Do it the right way this year, though, and that means heading to Mike's Star Market on the west side of Eau Claire. Brats, burgers, chicken, beef, whatever you're grilling or putting on the smoker, you want to make sure it's quality, and that's what Mike's Star Market gives you. Plus, they now have freeze-dried candy, and get this, if you purchase a bag of the Jolly Rancher ones, $1 per bag goes to Backyard Dreams. So what are you waiting for? It's time to do some shopping at Mike's Star Market in Eau Claire. Matt, his top 5, Ken Griffey Jr., A-Rod, Barry Bonds, Pedro, and David Justice. I got to talk to you about that David Justice pick there, Matt.
You know, there was a point around 1991 when I think you could have made a pretty strong case for that. David Justice might.
For 1 year.
Well, but around
this
that
is
time.
This is a Matt that you and I both know.
Okay.
So we can pick on him.
Oh. Is this someone who might have gotten all excited about Jimmy Garoppolo?
Yes.
A few years ago?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I mean,
Don't stand up for him.
It's not okay. It's not like it's not the super.
This isn't Moneyball, okay?
I think it also depends. And here's the thing, though, and I don't know if this is the case with this particular Nat. But I wonder if there's a little bit of nostalgia bias going on. You know, like how you think. I've talked about this before. What you first experience when you're young sticks with you the longest, and you have an inordinate amount of, I guess, either, I don't want to say respect, but they stand higher than they probably should. Happens with me, with musicians all the time. I think to a certain degree that happens with athletes. That could be the case. Justice was really good around that time, but top 5 all time for the 1990. I don't know.
Really quick before we get to ours, Mark, number 1, Griffey Jr., number 2, A-Rod, number 3, Mariano Rivera, number 4, Barry Bonds, and then he put, I hate including him though, and then number 5, Randy Johnson. All right, Luke, number 5 for you.
I am going to go with Barry Bonds.
Okay.
And I probably would have been higher if not for all the stuff. I'm basically doing this on the 1990s and the threat level of him when he was up in the early aughts. Like, oh my gosh, Barry Bonds, you have to watch the at-bats. And if he was clean, he'd be number 1. So I'm not going to do the whole, well, he's not a Hall of Famer. He should be in the Hall of Fame, but I'm going to put him number 5.
My number 5, I'm going with Pedro Martinez. I feel like Pedro, we knew he was good when he was pitching, but I almost feel like we didn't realize how good he was until he was done. And it feels like in the last few years, when you hear these pitchers say, this hasn't been done before since Pedro Martinez. This hasn't been done since Pedro did it this year, that year. 99 and 2000 were probably some of his best years over there. But Pedro, to me, is I've grown to have a bigger appreciation for what Pedro Martinez did as a player after his career, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, that dude was insanely good. When you look at, when you won AL Cy Young Awards after 99 and 2000, combining for a 1.90 ERA and 430 innings. The major league average in that stretch was 4.62. Dude was insane.
Yeah.
And he wasn't the biggest guy out there either.
No.
So Pedro's number 5 for me.
Okay. Number 4, Randy Johnson.
Okay.
What was the thing I was hearing? Hey, on the Baseball Tonight podcast, they were, I can't remember the name of the pitching analyst they had on. I'll get it for you in a little bit, but it's like this pitching guru that they've been having on ESPN of late, and that they were doing a discussion about like lower body mechanics with another pitcher. Like they were talking to like Billy Wagner or someone. We're talking, and they were discussing Randy Johnson. If Randy Johnson had good lower body mechanics, could have thrown maybe 110. His lower body mechanics actually weren't that good. So
he's also an ostrich. So
yeah. Right. So I don't know how well that could have been corrected at all, but gosh, he was scary enough, and he could have been better potentially.
The scariest dude for me, scariest pitcher of all time is Randy Johnson.
Still the John Kruk All-Star game, which I know that means nothing because it's exhibition, but that if you had to encapsulate that. My other
watch the movie Little Big League too. The dude was scary in there. So
there was another story from that podcast where like he got angry at during one game. There was something like someone said something or whatever, and It was a spring training game, and he got so angry against in a game against the Padres, and he whiffs like 6 Padres in a row, and like each time he's done, he does like a gesture like "get out of here" sign, and was probably throwing in some F-bombs and stuff. Like when he got angry, go away. Probably seriously, the last enduring memory of Randy Johnson was when he was trotting on the field. Game 7 of the World Series in 2001. He just has this look.
Yeah.
You're like, oh boy, here we go. And
All right.
And there we went.
My number 4, nobody mentioned him, but this dude was dominant when he was playing. Albert Pujols. Nobody has put him in his top 5. I don't know if you have yet, but number 4 for me, Albert Pujols. When that guy, he exploded on the scene, and when he was with the Cardinals, was just, well, as the old ESPN commercial would say, "My name is Albert, I'm not a machine," or whatever. Remember that one. But this guy, you look at his freaking numbers. First year, 2001, 329 batting average, 314, 359, 331, 330, 331, 327, 357, 327, 312. I mean, just insane. And I'm a little surprised nobody's put him in top 5, but he's in my top 5, Albert Pujols.
Rob Friedman, the pitching ninja, is who I was referencing. Pitching ninja, Rob Friedman. I almost had Pujols in my top 5, and I think I bumped him down to 6. I go with Greg Maddux at number 3. It's just, again, one of those like, oh, he's going to win again. Yep. He's going to win again. Yep. He's going to win again.
Didn't overpower you, just Mr. Consistent.
Yep.
So.
Just, the perfect mechanics, just absolutely solid winning pitcher for one of the best teams of the last 3 decades. Only one World Series title, but they were one of the best. The Braves in the 90s. Gosh, I hated them. After the 91 series, and I'm a little ashamed that I didn't appreciate them more over that time. But man, he was good. I think when he joined the Braves, he became the best of that bunch. And you remember, they had maybe one of the best pitching lineups we've seen in most any of our lifetimes.
And only won 1 World Series.
Only one.
Yeah. Okay, my number 3. I've kind of flip-flopped back and forth on this one, but I'm going to go A-Rod for number 3 for me. Alex Rodriguez. It's another youngster that came in and just lit it up. It's still, you want to talk about, 1 World Series for the Braves. The fact that the Mariners had Randy and Griffey and A-Rod and didn't win one. That's so sad, right? That's so sad. I know A-Rod is a polarizing figure, and we know about, his stuff and steroids and all that too. But I mean, you look at the numbers, that guy was pretty lights out, especially at the plate too. So I got to go A-Rod for number 3.
I mean, yeah, the steroids are going to hold him back, but there's a reason he got those good contracts.
Yeah.
I got Pedro at number 2.
Okay.
I think part of my Pedro appreciation admittedly comes via Bill Simmons. And so I've heard a lot about Pedro Martinez. And I think a lot of people know more about the Red Sox because of him, because he became such a white hot media figure over time. But Pedro Martinez backed that. And yeah, in real time, some of those games in 1999 are stunningly good, and similar makeup to Greg Maddux too. Small guy that pitches like crazy, which is not to say that this next person is going to be a top 5 guy in 20 years from now, but Yamamoto, similar build, smaller guy, very lithe, if you will. Maybe there might be something to that.
Yep. So that was your number 2, Pedro. My number 2, I'm going to go Barry Bonds for my number 2 on there. I mean, again, I got a couple of steroid guys on there, a couple guys who are not in the Hall of Fame, but numbers wise, especially towards the end there, it was like, I mean, you either walk the man or you're probably going to get a home run, off of him. I mean, he was dominant at the plate and such. So, yeah, I got to go Barry Bonds at number 2.
Okay. Mariano Rivera is number 1.
Okay.
Because if he came in a game, the game was over.
Except for Game 7 of that
Except for that one.
2001.
Yeah, exactly. Which, again, as I've said before, makes that stand out so much more because he didn't succeed
That
at
means
that point.
Luis Gonzalez is the best player of all time from
Right.
1990 to on.
And same logic of this D3 school is actually the national champion because they beat this school to beat this school to beat Alabama. No, it would. Oh gosh, if Rivera came in, basically any other time, you're like, okay, thanks. You might as well take a shower and get to bed now because the game was over, and it was.
Well, let me ask you this, because my number one is Griffey Jr., like everybody, like the majority. Would you rather have, and I'll pose this to everybody else, in their primes, Rivera or Griffey, mano y mano going up against each other, or whoever you think is the best hitter, which one would you trust at that moment?
Wow. So Rivera pitching to Griffey.
And Griffey at his prime and healthy, and
And Rivera at his prime and healthy. I'll take Mariano Rivera. I'll still do it. He was outside of Game 7. He was unhittable.
Or if you want to throw Bonds in there, I don't care who you think the best hitter is. I was just throwing Griffey out there.
Right. He was beating everybody. Like, who had the advantage on him? There wasn't a kryptonite on the guy.
Yeah.
And I mean, you could do the whole, what did Griffey win? Rivera won a bunch. Yeah, and of course, Rivera had the opportunity because he was playing with the Yankees. He was closing those games.
Yeah. Yep.
But these are all good choices to have. Like, if Griffey's 7 on my list, I mean, that's not bad.
No. Since we're doing, it's kind of like a top 5 that we usually do with Brandon and such. If I had a 6 and I did have him on here, it would have been Chipper, even though he started, 93 and such. But still.
And again, Ohtani's rising fast.
Yep. All right, 2 in, 1 more to go. We'll be back. Business and Sports coming up next. All right, third and final hour on this Wednesday morning, making the turn on the week. Coming up this hour, we will get back to some more football talk. We got some hoops chats coming at you as well. Big Ten Conference tournament starting today, not far from us. Lucas, surprised you're not going.
Oh.
Since I thought that'd be something you'd run over to and maybe catch a game or something.
Well,
so.
and heck, I don't know how I missed this, that the Big Ten women's tournament was at Target Center.
Mm-hmm.
And I drove, I actually was, because their choir performance at the Basilica of St. Mary on Saturday, late afternoon, early evening. So as I'm driving along Hennepin, and I'm passing along, and I see all these Iowa fans around. And I see the Big Ten, and I'm like, oh, the tournament's happening there. I think Iowa was playing. Caitlin Clark was probably could actually do the whole. Caitlin Clark was like 300 feet away from me inside Target Center. I mean, it's true. I think the game was actually happening at that moment. So I don't know how I missed that. Probably too subsumed with all NFL free agency news or something, because there's only so much that can go around at any given moment.
And new VP candidates. So,
hey now. Hey now.
If you know what I'm talking about, look
again,
it up.
I'm glad we don't follow the Jets. Just leave it at that.
Thank goodness. Oh, yeah. So we'll get to some
Good morning, Greenie.
Yeah, right. So much for a certain quarterback saying we need to limit distractions for us to be successful.
Well, I mean, hey, it depends on how much limiting you need to do.
Hey, one way to limit it, leave, retire. There you
Also
go.
that.
You know, move on to your next career, apparently. So, all right, let's do some business of sports brought to you by Security Financial Bank. We are going to the football world with this one. Mentioned it the other day, but let's kind of maybe do a little bit more of a deep dive into this thing. The Bears working on a new stadium. And was it last year, a couple years ago, that talked about, was it Arlington Heights potentially going over there?
At the side of the old, now old dog park.
Yep.
Racing park.
Yep. Now, though, it's a little bit of a change. The Bears have announced that they will begin plans to build a new stadium near their current home of Soldier Field. The Chicago Bears, quote, are committed to contributing over $2 billion to build a stadium and improve open spaces for all families, fans, and general public to enjoy in the city of Chicago. The future stadium of the Chicago Bears will bring a transformative opportunity to our region, boosting the economy, creating jobs, facilitating mega events, and generating millions in tax revenue. We look forward to sharing more information when our plans are finalized. Also, reports out there saying the team is investing private money to build a publicly owned domed stadium on the lakefront to the south of where Soldier Field currently stands. So it could be a very real possibility. The only non-domed stadium in the NFC North will be Lambeau Field now. So,
well, remember, the NFL will move the games out of there if it's below 10 degrees because they don't want any potential amputations and legal issues. That's a whole nother story there, by the way. I could go on about Kansas City people. So, ever heard of gloves?
Exactly. Like,
really?
That's what I want to know, not to get off on a tangent.
but let's.
But the people who got frostbite, were they the ones that are like, I'm going to wear no shirt and hold a sign say it should be colder?
Yeah.
Is it those people? Because if it is those people, stop.
Why did we never hear about amputations from Lambeau?
Because we're smarter.
Right. Or even Chicago or Minnesota when they were outside of TCFA. I was at a Tupelo game. Nobody got amputated after that. Last night, I'm sure there are a lot of people who wanted something amputated after that game, but no one was.
Right.
And so now and again, this is Florio, but he's also a lawyer. He's saying, this could lead to the NFL wanting to move future games that are going to be about that cold. So that might be the end of that. So Packers have a Tupelo game up against a dome team. Let's say the Vikings. They go, we're going to move it over to US Bank Stadium so we can be in a warm environment. Oh, great. I'd be happy about that. But
that would cause more issues, I feel like.
You think, yeah, but the other thing was they're trying to avoid a lawsuit.
You can't. If it's a Vikings game in Minnesota, you can't just move it to Minnesota.
Right. I would think they'd probably go to like Ford Field.
Oh, but that's even dumber. So,
or down to Atlanta, let's say.
Right.
But that's the thing. Like, they're going to try to avoid a lawsuit because of that. And Floyer lays out where you could come up with a legal theory for that. So the point being, Kansas City, learn. Yeah, you got some great fans down there. Some of the best. Learn a little bit more. That this is a teachable moment. So anyway, back to the soon-to-be climate-controlled Chicago Bears.
Yeah. So
Which I'm still not convinced this is going to happen.
You don't think they'll have a dome?
I think something is eventually going to happen. I know the Bears said, like Kevin Warren has been insisting, we are going to have a fixed domed stadium. I do wonder if it's going to be like US Bank Stadium, where there's going to be something that opens up, so it's not completely climate controlled. But in effect, it is a domed stadium. It's the cost, even the location. Now with the White Sox already wanting a new stadium, and Governor Pritzker in Illinois is like, yeah, really, guys? I'm not sure we're going to provide the public money for you. Now the Bears I know the Bears have been talking much longer than the White Sox. The White Sox thing kind of came out of the blue, even though they've had issues with the new Comiskey for a while. I don't know if they're going to get the money that they want. Now, that also doesn't mean we're going to soon be seeing the Albuquerque Bears anytime soon.
Right.
But I don't think we should start counting down the years till the new Spaceship Soldier Field gets demolished. I should note, though, the notion of a domed stadium in Chicago, for the Bears, it sucks. In a history thing, it sucks. Though I guess Bears fans are kind of maybe 50-50-ish. I can't remember the poll. It was asked about it. But think of a city of the stature of Chicago should probably have a domed stadium to have a lot of other bigger events.
And that's where I was going to get into, because if they do have a dome stadium, there's a couple things that you can guarantee is going to happen. There will be a Super Bowl in Chicago if there's a dome stadium.
One and only, but they'll get theirs.
They will get theirs. There will be Final Fours, national championships. We saw it at US Bank, right? They will have one in Chicago. That's the purpose of having a dome, is to have all these other events in it, like a Super Bowl, like college basketball Final Fours, national championships and such. Heck, US Bank Stadium, how many freaking concerts do they have over there now? A lot, right?
Yeah, including now winter, you can do that stuff.
Right,
I know,
exactly.
I know a lot of them still, even at US Bank Stadium, are in warmer weather months, because a lot of tours aren't going to happen in winter for obvious reasons. But they could still have, like, the Billy Joel Stevie Nicks concert was in mid-November. They're not having that at Soldier Field in mid-November. Even if it's a little warmer, they're not doing that. They'll have that at new domed stadium next to Soldier Field.
Yeah. Yeah, it's that's the reason, I think, the ultimate reason of the dome, because it's more income. And to have one in Chicago just kind of makes sense from a business standpoint, right?
Well, right. And
not from a historical whatever sort of thing. From a business one, I mean, you're going to have a dome. You can pencil in Chicago's going to have a Super Bowl played there. Bears won't play in it. Chicago will just host it. So
also, if you're going to have a big football stadium in the downtown, which I know they've had for decades and decades, but usage-wise, you probably want to put as much use into it so it's not there for use for like 10 days a year. And I know it's a bit of a pejorative, but that was like the knock on when the Vikings wanted an open-air stadium. And then the state basically said, no, this has to be multi-purpose, closed, so we can use it for more things. A, because it's state money. Well, we want more use out of this than just a Viking stadium. But B, it's right by the downtown of Minneapolis, and you don't want all that real estate taken up by something that's barely used. I mean, Target Field's fine because it's used 82 times a year, plus a handful of others. Not for professional football. So it's more logical to the city of Chicago to do it that way. I know it contradicts what we NFL history types like, and it is gonna suck when the Bears are an indoor team and they're playing on. Well, maybe by that time they figured out how to do grass indoors.
I was gonna say
it's
at least
possible.
the turf might actually be a little bit better.
Well, they finally have decent stuff.
They'd probably be the only one though too where it would turn brown and indoor stadium and all.
Yeah,
that
or it'll be like the Soldier Field artificial turf.
Yeah.
Hey,
we really want to bring something from Soldier Field in it. Let's just bring the field from Soldier Field in there. How about that?
See how long those divots
nostalgia,
last.
baby. Yeah.
Wow. So I get why they're doing that. I do like also, as part of this plan, that while the spaceship will get torn down, that the colonnades from Soldier Field are still going to stay up. And I know it's no longer a historical landmark because of all the alterations, but at least this plan, and I can't imagine anyone's going to step in and say, no, let's raise the whole thing. But that they're going to keep that regardless of what happens. And so that part of history will still be there.
Now, I don't know if they've talked about this, if this is in their plans, or if they can even feasibly do it, but it is Chicago and such. Do they have the envision of like a lot of these stadiums now where they're going to create a district?
That's going to be tough. Because
of the space, right?
Yeah, Google Map it.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of space. There's like 2 parking lots south of Soldier Field. I've never been to Soldier Field, so I don't know. I can't say like in person, but you do the map thing and figure it out pretty easily.
No, I was looking at it. That's why I said I didn't think.
And like
they're tearing down that stadium, but I mean that's going to be parking and stuff.
There's 2 lots, and I think they said there'll still be parking around there. But then if they're going to turn the interior of Soldier Field inside the colonnades, if they're going to turn what is the stadium into essentially a park, because this is also, let's remember, its original purpose was post development was to be a park. And there'll be some development in there, but not a lot. Well, you go across the road and you run into stuff that's already done, and I don't know how much eminent domain you're going to get into. You're not that far from like McCormick Place, which is one of the main convention centers around. There's not going to be too much they can get off of that. So it might be similar. Now, okay, U.S. Bank Stadium, I was going to say similar to that in that there's not a lot of development opportunities, but the Wilfs did do a fair amount. And I think most of us have been around there. There's been a lot that's popped up in that small amount of space just to the northwest of U.S. Bank Stadium since it's been built. So maybe they could do something.
It's still confusing, though, over there, so for first time if you've never done it. So.
Right, yeah. It's going to be less on the lakefront. I mean, are they going to, infill Lake Michigan to do stuff? They're not going to do that. So I think they're figuring they're going to make more money off of the stadium itself, which is counter to like everything else that's been happening nowadays. But that might be the solution. It is Chicago, after all.
Can I make a suggestion, a friendly pointer to our friends from the South? One thing I think they need to add for this, take a page from Green Bay. They need to do their own Hall of Famer museum, I think, for Chicago Bears.
Yes.
I don't think they got the Ring of Honor and all that, but I mean, you want to talk about your legacy, your history, we know about it. I think there's an opportunity there for Chicago to do something. I mean, come on. And I feel like they're falling a little short on this. I feel like if Green Bay can do it, why can't Chicago do this?
Yeah. Like, I will say.
Because you see some teams are doing it. Some have started it recently. Chicago, come on. As a sports history guy, for me, if I were to ever go, I'd check it out. Heck yeah.
When you Google Chicago Bears Hall of Fame, you get a lot of stuff about Bears in
the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's Hallis Hall, but that's look, there's plenty of history there, but that's also not what you would expect. I mean, Vikings have a much better job of that and I know the Vikings have a good amount of history, but they figured it out. It took them a little while. They got a pretty nice museum. Of course, the Packers are the gold standard.
Yep.
Bears should do that as well. There's no reason not to.
I agree. If you want to make it more of a 365, that's what Lambeau Field is now, right?
Yeah.
You're making it year-round destination.
Didn't we find like the Steelers have a really good Hall of Fame?
I think it was, Did the Patriots start one a few years ago too? I mean, you have to after you win 6 Super Bowls.
Right.
So,
but yeah, this is, I mean, there are revenue opportunities there. So, and I mean, if there's not enough room at the new stadium, but I would like to think there will be, find a place elsewhere and then promote the heck out of it. Again, to the point of the Vikings, when I went to Minneapolis on Saturday, I was seeing billboards and I was not driving anywhere close to Eagan, but there were billboards talking about tour the history of the Vikings. Like they promote that too. So Bears, do the same.
Yeah.
We'll come. We're not Bears fans. A lot of us hate the Bears.
If you've got the most Pro Football Hall of Famers in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, how do you not have something more bigger?
It's the Bears. They are an iconic franchise. Whatever we think of, they are iconic. I think just about, look, I think probably if you truth serumed a lot of Packers fans, they would want to tour the Bears Museum just because they're also football fans. I think a lot of Packers fans get it. And a lot of us would tour a Vikings museum to see the history of the game. You want to get that.
I mean,
stuff.
that would be a shorter one. There's nothing in trophy cases to look at. So
Hey, come on, stop knocking the 69 NFL conference championship, or the whole display they have to the Minneapolis Miracle. That's a major part of that tour. I get it. I mean, it's one of the top plays of all time, but still, the Bears should have more.
Yeah.
Unless we're missing something, but that might be part of the problem. If we're missing something, well, you're not promoting it well enough.
Yeah, like you mentioned, they got Hallis Hall in that, but that's not just I'm looking at like you go into Lambeau, you go and right to that Hall of Fame if you want. So 2 levels.
Yeah.
Over there.
And again, they have the advantage in Green Bay of having space that Chicago does not have, and by this
but
plan,
build it within
won't.
the stadium.
You'd think so. You would think so, but I don't know. Maybe it's also the Bears, and I don't trust their judgment on a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
it's not the best run franchise.
Yeah, just go down, dig down, go underneath.
I mean, in terms of NFC North franchises, in terms of how the organizations operate, I mean, it's pretty clear the Packers are number 1. I think the Vikings they were not run that well for a while. I think they've definitely ascended to.
Well, you go to the NFLPA report
2.
cards, yeah.
Well, there's also that, and I wasn't even thinking of that. I think the Lions are probably finally settled in at 3. I think the Bears are number 4 right now in terms of organizational competence.
Yeah.
Well, they could change.
Well, and they might be screwing up this whole Justin Fields thing here too. So
the Bears.
Yep. So, all right, let's talk some more football with free agency and such going on. Today's the day that it technically opens. Business is open, so get ready.
I wonder what's going to happen today.
A lot of teams officially announcing these signings we've already heard about in the last couple days. So that would be Green Bay with Jacobs and Xavier McKinney and such. Apparently, Xavier McKinney said something on Twitter about wearing number 15, and then he said forgot about Bart. So again, honest mistake, but know your history if you're going to come to Green Bay. Just saying.
Yes.
But we'll take a quick break, and we'll talk some more football coming up for these quick words. Are you looking to get your name out in the public eye more? Do you need some apparel, maybe some drinkware or signage done? Whatever marketing materials you may be looking for, Resonance Branding Company has a wide range of items to help make your brand stand out from the competition. All your branding needs in one convenient place. Resonance is here to save you time, money, and headaches, and they can also set you up with an online store to sell your items as well. So let me simply ask you, does your brand resonate? Resonance Branding Company. Go check out their store in Altoona. Visit their websites to see what they all have to offer. So free agency day. Can we just call it day 3 of free agency, even though it's like
No, it's day 1. Nothing happens until today. Yeah.
Can you? No, never mind. I was going to say something, but I won't because it's going to start a political thing. So no, not going to. I'll hold on to it. I'll just say these agents and teams actually negotiate and agree very quickly to some stuff. So you know where I'm getting at. But anyways, we've been talking a lot about the green and gold and such and some of their moves. But with your Vikings there, Lucas, Kirk Cousins no longer there. You've signed some other players and such. You got a new quarterback in Sam Darnold. Bridge quarterback, hoping for Baker Mayfield resurrection project. What's your thoughts?
Total bridge. I see Sam Darnold get signed. I'm like,
it's screamed of like an Andy Dalton deal, like 1 year, 10 million, sort
similar
of thing.
Hair color, I guess, kind of, sort of, in a way. It's so that someone kind of sort of passable is there. Gosh, it sure seems like they're going to be trading up now.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're not winning the NFC North with Sam Darnold.
Period. Right.
Yeah. I wonder if Justin Jefferson ultimately gets moved.
Do you think so?
I would not be surprised.
This year or
this year?
Ooh.
Because if you're going to move up to get a pretty decent quarterback, you're probably going to have to surrender something pretty significant on your end, i.e. Justin Jefferson. Like, what else are you trading?
Ooh.
I know Dan Graziano said essentially that yesterday, and it's been talked about a fair amount. Like, well, maybe they need to trade Justin Jefferson to move up, because it's about the only way to do that. Well, now that we see what's ahead for the Vikings, it's not Jaron Hall as your future. It's not Nick Mullins as your future. Sure, Zach isn't going to be Sam Darnold as your future. And as much as I've said repeatedly that you're not necessarily going to get the best quarterback ever at like 1 or 2 in the draft, well, then I'm moving up to 1 or 2 anyway. What's your other option in the nearest term, unless they really are doing a full rebuild? And that's what Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah has always said. We're not doing a full rebuild. It is a competitive rebuild. So if you're doing that,
I love how this has been the last few, not just the Vikings, but other teams. You don't really hear the whole rebuild anymore. It's like retool.
Yeah.
Competitive rebuild to try to make it like sound a little bit better.
No one wants to say, screw it, we're tanking this season.
Right.
Guys.
Yeah.
Didn't the Jets, though, in effect, say that without saying that like 2 years ago?
Yeah.
So it can happen, but no one does. And I'm sure Adolfo-Mensah, I mean, I guess there's one way to look at it. Adolfo-Mensah would be better evaluated, I think, by completely starting over, putting in his entire imprint on the team.
Mm-hmm. It's a new GM for the last couple of years, for the most, a couple years under McConnell. At some point, that GM's got to make a decision, got to get his quarterback, right? We see that a lot.
Yeah. And it was, he was not a fan of Cousins. Look, Cousins was not thought highly by a lot of people in the NFL, but he's thought highly by a lot of others. I mean, there was definitely a lot of different opinions on it as a quarterback.
And I feel like if you signed Cousins and you kept them, you almost for the next couple of years really have to go all in for it. Would you agree with that for your Vikings? Like, okay,
that amount of money.
Yeah, you signed Cousins for a couple of years. You're going to keep Jefferson. You're going to have to invest in him. That means you really kind of have to go all in. Now you get a little bit of a grace period, and you potentially could get your long-term solution at quarterback.
Right. If they can get someone like a Jaden Daniels or JJ McCarthy. I'm not going to think of like a Caleb Williams or Drake May.
Some people say Drake May's going to fall, but I don't know if that's the CJ Stroud of last year.
Maybe. Wow.
This is what Chris Sims is not a fan.
Okay, well, that's Chris Sims too. But well, if they can get one of them, good. Because
Michael Penix Jr.
Maybe. I'm wary of the injury history.
Mm-hmm.
Really so. Because the thing is, their defensive moves the past few days have been pretty decent. I think they're even losing Daniil Hunter. I think they're a better defensive team right now. Adding Van Ginkel, Greenard. I mean, Blake Cashman's a decent move, but I think overall they're better than they used to be. But offensively, they're definitely downgraded at this point. Well, look, Aaron Jones, I think, is going to be better than Alexander Mattison, presuming Aaron Jones stays on the field. I mean, as soon as Aaron Jones was cut, I'm like, oh man, I wish I were on the show right now to just speculate on this. And then it happened. By the way, where do you think is the pulse of Packer Nation at this point on Aaron Jones' assessment? Is it more anger at the Packers? Is it he is now the enemy, we now hate him? Or is it, well, business decision, it happens?
I think majority is just anger at Packers, although we did have one listener yesterday very upset at Aaron Jones and saying, let me see if I can bring it up. He might be the first player in the history of my life that maybe okay. Maybe I read this wrong. Might be the first player in the history of my life that I can accept wearing purple.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Well,
I get it now. I think I read it wrong the other day. So
that's pretty good.
Yeah.
That speaks a lot to Aaron Jones. Look, from a rivalry standpoint, speaking as a fan of the Vikings and wanting to beat the Packers, there's part of me that really wants to see Aaron Jones rush for 200 yards in both games and somehow get the Vikings into the playoffs and go further than the Packers. I mean, yeah, okay, that's fandom stuff. Realistically, it's a 1-year deal. He could be injured for 7 games. He may not be all that productive. Maybe there's a reason Brian Gutekunst came with the contract offer that he did.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that is what that is, and there's a lot of the whole, hey, again, the Vikings get the Packers sloppy seconds. I mean,
well, and here's the thing: I think Aaron Jones is really pissed at the Packers right now, just kind of going through his Twitter feed.
That I get, and I've not seen that, but that's if I had to assess where he's coming, and from what I've heard of how this whole thing has gone, I think there is I wonder if there's a little bit of a Farvian sort of thing there of like, all right, screw you, I'm going to your rival.
Mm-hmm.
But it came pretty late in the process.
Yeah.
So maybe it was a little bit, I mean, I don't want to psychoanalyze, but maybe it's a bit more based on emotion, I guess.
I think I was just a little surprised that it was so quick. Like he, like going a minute, unless it was because I don't know if there was interest. I'm sure Drew Rosenhaus had a gauge, of what was, but at that point in your career, would you want to go maybe to a team that had a better shot at winning a Super Bowl?
You'd think so. Because the Vikings they don't have a good shot this upcoming year.
Mm-hmm.
Period. I mean,
and again, I don't know.
They are the dark horse of dark horses. I would not eliminate them, but man, I'm not putting them in any immediate discussion of a Super Bowl contender for 2024. I mean, even if with a quarterback that they draft, if they do, the other thing though is there was a pretty wide opening in Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless, like that again, that was one of the first things I thought because we were talking about A.J. Dillon going over to Minnesota. Once Aaron Jones was cut, then it was like, oh man, they really do have an opening over there. A familiar team. You're playing indoors.
Although his last interaction with the Vikings, he got in that little scuffle.
Yeah,
if you remember, was that New Year's Eve? I think this past.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So, and I think he knew what he was getting into quarterback wise.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, obviously he knew to know Kirk Cousins,
right?
There,
so you're not going to a team with a Patrick Mahomes alongside you. I think it was partially revenge, partially a very good opportunity to play. Like who's your competitor as a running back right now?
Yeah.
So
you would know more than me at this point.
Yeah,
so
and there's not much. Yeah. So Aaron Jones will be the star running back for the Vikings this year. And he could actually put up some decent numbers. I would not be surprised by that. And it may also be a 1-year deal, and then he gets cut after this year. Then or not cut, but he's not re-signed. He's let go.
I think a lot does depend though on how well your passing game is with Jefferson, like who's throwing the quarterback. Like who's, you know what I mean? Like
right. And if Jefferson does get traded, I guess we'll see. But Aaron Jones is a multiple threat too. Like, so maybe he is more of a receiver in Minnesota. I mean, they're pretty young otherwise, but maybe they can put something together. We don't know what TJ Hawkinson's going to be able to do this year, recovering from injury. Yeah, it's definitely not a move to be an absolute champion, but I think it makes sense from a job opportunity and a little bit of revenge. I mean, dude's a competitor. And that's a sure as heck strong way to compete when you're going up against your former team that you think jilted you. If that's what is actually happening, you got 2 opportunities coming up this autumn.
Right. Yep.
Take advantage of it.
So,
but yeah, other than that, like I like the defensive moves. I think they did pretty well there, but the offense is very incomplete until the draft. So I'm waiting until that happens.
Yeah. So, just kind of, there's not a whole lot of other moves kind of happening yet this morning and such. So kind of stuck in la la land.
It has gotten a lot quieter. I mean, obviously, because most of the moves are going to happen pretty quickly. And now we're down to the 1-year deals. So I mean, how again? Let's do the Danometer here. Scale of 1 to 10. Where are you at on the Packer free agent moves?
The other day, somebody asked me that. I was at about like a 7.5. But now I'm probably at like 8.3. And the reason why I was at 7.5 because I was bummed out about Aaron Jones. I was just bummed about that. Like, I think it would have been a huge benefit to have both Jones and Jacobs together. But I get it from a business standpoint and such. So I've, the grieving process, seeing one of my favorite players move on and such. So I'm probably about at 8.3 right now.
It was kind of wild seeing how many people were like genuinely upset later in the day after Aaron Jones.
Oh, I went through I don't know if you saw the picture.
I did. Yeah.
All those emotions,
including the NFL, including the draft throw.
Yeah. It was like all that. Like, what do we do? Like, okay, Jacobs. Oh no, Jones. Crap. And then it's like, holy crap, they actually did sign Xavier McKinney. It was like all in one. Like, it's like the Jacobs one was like, oh, okay, how is that going to work? But I'm happy, sort of thing. And yeah,
I had to look up the pronunciation of that because there's so many Xaviers and Xaviers. But yes, he is, unlike a lot of the other Xaviers, he is Xavier, just for everyone's reference point. But anyway, yeah, like I'd say, and not being a fan, I'd give it probably about an 8 out of 10. I like the moves they made overall.
If they sign another safety, though, it jumps up to a 9.8 for me.
So it's been a 0.8 increase thus far from the grieving process, and then another 1.5. So it's kind of like war rating. Another safety is worth another 1.5.
Yep. They add another safety, it's going to be up to a 9.8 for me. Because then you really can go in a draft and do whatever the heck you want at that point. So
see, and back to the Vikings quick. This is a point that I mean, granted, the easiest way I've found without going into the Twitter maelstrom has been actually Pro Football Talk, the rumor mill, because they cover literally every move that's made. I'm like, that's an NFL player? That's an NFL player? What? They cover everything. And for my fandom, it does kind of help that Florio's a Vikings fan, so he's going to actually have some extended takes on that. But the point's been made. Vikings have covered a fair number of their needs already through free agency. They can do a little bit more with the draft picks and such. Hint, hint. Trying to get a quarterback. They've got a little bit more room to move there. Same with the Packers, though. If they can find a decent safety, you got a little bit more leeway with what you do at the draft.
There's still a good crop out there too. That's what's got me a little excited about potentially happening. So
now, once free agency becomes legal, maybe they can do something.
Yep. So, okay, I'm gonna bring it up. I gotta, because there's something else with it now too. So the whole Aaron Rodgers thing.
Well, there's more?
No, there's a little bit more, actually. There's a little bit more. I don't know if I was the first to tell you about this yesterday when I sent you that screenshot.
Yeah.
Was I the first to break that for you?
It was I was driving and I got that and the Journal Sentinel one, and you're like, so you were looking at your phone and driving? Well, like a stop at a stoplight. So I looked at it, I'm like, oh, so I saw your text and then I saw the Journal Sentinel at about the same time. I'm like, oh gosh.
Yeah. So maybe he might be a vice presidential candidate. I just saw this. Sauce Gardner, his teammate, tweeted out last night. Oh, Aaron about to become the VP. That's why he's not answering my text messages.
Oh boy.
First of all, did you try FaceTiming, Sauce? You gotta try that first.
There's only one way to
As we
communicate
know,
with
yep,
him.
that's as we know. If you want to get a hold of Aaron, you got to FaceTime him. So,
Do
can
not-
I just keep saying I'm so glad we don't have to like do 24/7 of this now? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like here, the hypocriticalness of this guy to go out there and say, for us to be successful, we have to knock off the distractions. Look in the mirror, dude. I mean, come on. Distraction number one from him. Right there.
And,
It's
and
so
take the
fun-
ideology out of this. If anyone's starting to think that this could be if Kamala Harris were stepping down and Joe Biden were considering him, or if Donald Trump were considering, doesn't matter. Why are you running for vice president at all?
Yeah.
Period. Doesn't matter what your ideology. Why, dude?
Yeah.
Choose one or the other. You can't really do both, which actually led me to think last night. And yes, we are talking about Aaron Rodgers, but hey, come on, this is crazy. So what about like equal time provisions and such? So like if a Jets game is on national TV, does that mean that, let's say he's on Sunday Night Football and NBC, does that mean that the next night on like Monday night, you got to devote like 3.5 hours to the Trump campaign, and then Tuesday night, you got to devote 3.5 hours to the Biden campaign? I mean, that's not actually going to happen, but like
Part of me
never thought of this stuff before.
Part of me wants this to happen just to see like I like organized chaos sometimes, and just I want to see it.
Oh
all
yeah,
burn,
the whole
you know?
Elmo burn it down thing.
Yeah.
There is part of me that's like that. Like, all right, sure, let's do it, because
Yeah.
he's not going to be the vice president. There's no scenario I can imagine where RFK Jr. wins. And again, I'm not saying whether he should or shouldn't. I'm being a political realist. He's not going to be elected president. Thus, Aaron Rodgers is not going to be vice president, and a heartbeat away from being president. Aaron Rodgers making an Oval Office address.
Who would be the current player, maybe recently retired player, that would be the best leader?
Oh boy.
Taking coaches out of it.
Peyton Manning had been talked about a lot.
Yeah.
He has been talked about for.
Let's let the Mannings run it. Eli. Although Eli's kind of improved a little bit in terms of PR and that sort
What do you
of stuff.
think of?
I mean, he's doing commercials with Dad now, not Peyton.
That's true. What do you think of Peyton Manning now doing the Olympic opening ceremony?
I saw that. I don't know.
Which I think was Richard Deitch that said, interesting now that we finally have an Olympics that's not in a country that's got, shall we say, some issues, that suddenly NBC is now pivoting to like, let's have Peyton Manning and go basically back to what the Olympics oftentimes used to be of like, let's have fun, as opposed to geopolitical analysis, which was kind of required. Yeah, but Manning's not going to run for anything at this point. He could, and I know he's very well liked. He won't.
No. Tom Brady.
He's so competitive, he might actually do a really good job at whatever. It's that whole, he'll be good at whatever he does. He probably would be good as both as a candidate and as an actual either legislator or executive. He probably would do a good job at that. I know the classic example would be like a Bart Starr. Could have done really well with that.
Yeah. That's why I said current.
I know.
Yeah.
Gosh, if other.
And that's why I'm not including coaches, because Lombardi would be a lot of people's picks. So
right. Gosh, who else really stands out like a good? Again, you got to think of like glue guys.
Yep.
People who can bring a lot of folks.
Not Russell Wilson.
Because no,
although he has a slogan already. Let's ride, America.
I'm Russell Wilson, and I approve this message.
You know,
let's ride.
When it was reported he went to the Steelers, the first thing that just keeps looping in my mind every time I think of Russell Wilson. I don't even know if you've watched this movie. Zoolander, have you seen the movie Zoolander?
I've not seen Zoolander, no.
Okay, there is a scene in the movie where Ben Stiller goes back to his hometown. And do you know the premise of the movie? Like, he's a male model.
Yeah.
He goes back to his hometown, and it's a mining town. So he works with his dad and his brother. But, like, he's got, like, this pickaxe and hard hat. But he's, like, walking like a model walks through the mining towns. I just feel like that's like, I keep thinking Russell Wilson, Pittsburgh, Steel City with that. I don't know why. It just keeps running through my mind like that.
Oh no, but here's
It's like
the thing.
Zoolander in the mine.
You know how we talked about how he's going to come up with some slogan that's going to ruin something? I already know what it's going to be. Preseason game or something. First game, he's interviewed, and then right at the end, he breaks out the towel.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be
waves
something.
and is like wave your towels, baby.
Something like that. Yeah,
It's going to be that, and all the Pittsburgh fans are going to be like, ugh.
Mm-hmm.
Great. You just ruined the towels. Though I've seen some speculation that he probably actually will do, I mean, maybe not MVP level better, but he'll be better in Pittsburgh than he was in Denver. It's a better fit overall. So it's easy to knock Russell Wilson. He's given us plenty of fodder. I think he actually will do better there. Yeah.
America needs Gardner Minshew.
He was a possible Vikings quarterback. Now he's a Raider.
Jorts.
Jorts. Hey, look, I wear jorts too. So
jorts.
That's the thing. Yeah.
Jorts and mullets.
Pretty much. We need more of that. Hey, this also means if Aaron Rodgers were to become vice president, we'd probably have our first this may apply for Jesse Ventura, who, as you may have heard, also potential VP under RFK Jr. First facial hair adorned president or vice president in many, many years. Decades at that.
Since Chester A. Arthur?
At least presidentially speaking, I think you have to go back to, no, that would be William Howard Taft was the last one who had facial hair. Vice presidents, I got to double check.
The only reason I know Chester A. Arthur is because in 4th grade, we had to do president papers. And we didn't know it was president papers. We just had to pick a number, 1 through whatever it was at that point. I picked 21 because of Dion. And then I found out we're doing presidents. You get Chester A. Arthur. Who? And this was before the internet, so there wasn't a whole lot out there. So, yeah, Chester A. Arthur.
The last vice president to have facial hair was Charles Curtis, Herbert Hoover's vice president. So this would be the first time. If,
Chuck.
Yes, Chucky, as he's no, he's not. So yes, if Aaron Rodgers were to somehow, some way become the vice president,
he's gonna have that every August. That stash that he has,
humongous mustache,
the Tom Selleck.
Yeah, imagine that sitting behind President RFK Jr. doing the State of the Union with a big stash back there.
He's gonna look like Kurt Russell from Tombstone.
Can they actually set him up like the Zoom calls on the Pat McAfee show, where it's like a little off center and he's kind of way back in the distance? He's got like a baseball cap on, some shirt with a message on it.
Yeah,
that's a little bit more Aaron Rodgers than in a suit.
Oh, can't have an off season without Rodgers doing something.
No.
Hey, really quick before we take a break, we're going to make some basketball picks here. Kind of related to the Packers. Ian Rappaport reporting that as the Packers have rebuilt their running back room, free agent running back A.J. Dillon has several options outside of Green Bay, with sources say he's looking at the Giants, the Colts, and the Cowboys. So I will say this. As a father of a kid whose favorite player is A.J. Dillon, and this is going to sound weird, but if it's not Green Bay, please go to Dallas. That is Hudson's second favorite team. So I think he'll live with that then.
I'm sorry. Boy, I'm glad. This is going to sound really weird coming from a Vikings fan. I'm glad his favorite team is the Packers, so there's probably a 0% chance that the Cowboys can rise up to number 1. Oh boy.
But yeah, I don't know
choosing the Cowboys if you don't have some Texas connection or some family connection.
I don't really know how it got to be number 2. I really don't. But this isn't something that's recent. It's been a couple years now.
I still hope it's a phase.
Oh, it will be.
I hope so.
But it's just as a dad of a 6-year-old who's already heartbroken about Aaron Jones. And one of his favorite players is Derrick Henry too. And he wanted Derrick Henry to go to either to Green Bay or Dallas. That didn't happen. So I think he would live with him going to Dallas. So AJ, if you're listening, if it's not Green Bay, go to Dallas. Just to make my life easier for another year. Please do. So.
Make him a little bit more of a Cowboys fan in the near term, and then have him get all upset in January when they flame out in the first round of the playoffs again.
Yeah, so I don't know where that started. I really don't. I don't know how that started, to be honest with you. I'm not quite sure.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So.
Yes, let's hope. Let's get the vibes out
Mm-hmm.
to try to correct this.
Yeah.
That's not good.
All right, let's take a quick break, and we'll make some picks and predicts brought to you by the Elbow Room. We're going to pick the Big Ten Conference Tournament, okay? That starts today.
Let's do it.
That'll be coming up after these quick words. Time to make some picks and predicts brought to you by the Elbow Room in Eau Claire. Also, they've got some brackets, some bracket contests and such. So if you want to go over there and sign up for that, go ahead and do so. Watch the games there too while enjoying a man cave light. Let's do the Big Ten Conference Tournament, which starts today. We got a couple games tonight. Luke, Rutgers or Maryland? Who you picking?
Oh, they are identical. I mean, literally identical. I'll go with Rutgers. Why not?
Yeah, I'll go Rutgers too. Why not?
Mhm.
Right?
Yeah.
Michigan, Penn State.
I'll go with Pennsylvania State University.
I'll go Penn State there too. So let's do some games for tomorrow. Minnesota, Michigan State.
And Minnesota hasn't quite played as well of late. I'll go with Michigan State.
I'm going to go Michigan State too. Then it's Wisconsin versus Rutgers because that's who we picked.
Okay. I know the easy thing to be like, whoa, Rutgers. You know what? Wisconsin's going to win that game.
I'll go Wisconsin too, but a little too close for my comfort.
I actually think Wisconsin will win against whomever.
Okay.
In that particular matchup.
Ohio State, Iowa.
The Ohio State University versus Iowa. Iowa. Yeah, sure.
Let's go Indiana, Penn State.
Take Indiana.
Take Indiana too. Then would have Purdue versus Michigan State.
And based on our picks, I'll take Purdue.
I'll take Purdue. Wisconsin, Northwestern.
Wisconsin starts its run. Here we go, folks.
You know what? I'm going to pick Wisconsin too. So, Illinois, Iowa.
Illinois, Iowa. I'll go Fighting Illini.
I'll go Illinois too. Nebraska, Indiana.
Indiana.
I'm going to go Nebraska. I don't trust Indiana right now with Mike Woodson and such.
Yeah, no. He's coming back.
Yeah. Purdue and Wisconsin. Third time's a charm?
No, Purdue.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going Purdue. Let's go Illinois. I got Nebraska. You got Indiana.
Let's see. So, again, that was Illinois, Indiana?
For you, it's Illinois, Indiana. For me, it's Illinois, Nebraska.
Regardless, I take Illinois.
Yeah. I was going to say, don't think about it too hard. Illinois for me, too. So, Purdue, Illinois.
Purdue, Illinois. I'll take the Boilermakers.
I'm going to take Purdue, too.
Okay.
So, I'm going to take
All
Purdue.
Right.
So,
there we go.
We had the same besides one game.
Yeah, literally, that was it.
There's your drama.
So, of course, it'll be completely different by Thursday.
Exactly. So, Big East, let's just do it. So Marquette's the third seed in that one. You got UConn, Creighton, and Marquette, your top three.
That's pretty
UConn
decent.
or the field?
I'll take UConn.
I'm going to take UConn too.
Even understanding the field of I'll take UConn.
Yep. I agree with you. I agree with you. Speaking of which, UW Milwaukee's run ended last night. They had a lead with just a few minutes left to go, but not able to close it against the top-seeded Oakland in the Horizon League. So I made a run, but it's going to be a little too late. UW Green Bay women's basketball team is going back to the tournament, though. They won their conference tournament last night. So the Phoenix, are back in the tournament. So
cool.
Yeah.
Do you think there's something, by the way, to the notion of referees being more lenient on physical play since the All-Star break? No, Simmons and Russillo had it in their pod, and the numbers are kind of backing it up. Do you think there's something to that? That the scoring was getting so nuts this year that that Adam Silver kind of quietly was like, change it.
I honestly could see that happening.
Yeah.
I could see that happening.
Which I know last night we had like the Timberwolves game, they were down by 20, and then they outscored the Clippers, and then they were leading by 22 or vice. It was something like that. So you still have a lot of that happening, but there's something going on, which I think makes for a better sport as well. Keep that in mind. I know the Bucks defensive numbers have gone up. And last night's probably not the best example to use, but by and large they have. I think that's coincidental to this. But keep that in mind. It looks like your offensive players aren't getting away with everything anymore.
Right. Yep.
It's probably a more balanced league.
I agree. Also, I know today deals can become official, but maybe one team of note to kind of watch for today for some potential bigger moves, the Chargers. The Chargers are about $25 million over the cap right now, which means they got to open up. They got to be under the cap by 3 o'clock our time today. That means Keenan Allen could be out, Mike Williams, Bosa, Khalil Mack, one or maybe a couple of those guys. Free agency or trade. Keep an eye on that.
Okay. Interesting.
DP and Adanitz are up next. Have yourself a good Wednesday. We'll be back at it again tomorrow morning, 6 a.m.